What's up, Candy Ken? What's up, Baby J? How's it going?
Not today.
Candy Ken and Baby J.
It's Candy Ken.
Welcome to the Candy Ken Show.
All right, everybody, we're back on the Candy Ken Show. I'm so excited. The certified health nut.
Yeah, baby.
We're so excited to have you. Oh my gosh.
I'm excited to be here.
So cool.
Holy shit.
Man, and I had no idea that you have ever heard of me or us.
Yeah, that's crazy. You've seen our TikToks. Like,
Yeah. And the artistry I was so impressed with back, it must have been 2019, 2018, just before I moved out of Los Angeles. And I was just loving the just vibrance of it and the stories, the way you told the stories. I was like, oh my God. And then I got addicted. And I was like, all right, what's next? And then you would kind of break the stories up and you would change the angle. And I was like, okay. And then the next. And you were so entertaining. It was amazing. And so, congratulations.
wow, that's so fun.
Yeah.
That's so exciting to know that you watched our videos.
I know, you always see the numbers online and it just doesn't mean anything. After a certain time, you're like 10 million followers, whatever. Like when you meet somebody in person, they're like, I actually watch it. You're like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah, and I love art, and I think it's an expression of who we are, and I love social media too, and authenticity. And your content was so creative and so funny and real and entertaining, and I think that's important, you know. Anyways, I just got a real kick out of it and a real feeling of authenticity, and so thank you.
Of course, that's how actually your videos also popped up. I think on Instagram, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, your reels.
Yes.
Where you're like shirtless, and you deep dive into things, and I was like I was like, whoa, what's going on here? 50 and ripped. You brought your book.
Hashtag ripped at 50, a journey to
Ripped at
self-love.
50.
I'm almost 60, so my third book is going to be Cock D at 60. And so I've put on 25 pounds in the last year or so, and so I'm bulking back up. I was pretty thin on those, and I think we can't. There's always room for more fitness, more health, more fitness, especially in the world today. 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically dysfunctional, and 70% of the American people are obese or overweight, and human beings are fat, sick, and nearly dead, especially Americans, and we can do better. And I have a very environmental bent because I was in the Amazon, working in the Amazon, and I saw the destruction down there. And I know the natural law of correspondence is as above, so below. So how do we expect the world to be healthy if we're not healthy? And also 70% obesity rate, that's close to 100%. And it grew from 62% when I started Certified Health Nut almost 20 years ago. And that's exponential growth in a small amount of time. And I'm part of the 100%. So I have to do something. I have to change the soil, the water, the air. This is the human experiment. So I feel deeply responsible for that and to make the world a better place, not attached with any kind of global warming and climate change, because those are politically and economically co-opted ideas to control human beings. And, but we can do things aligned with biomimicry, and biomimicry is a scientific term. Nature already does this. It's harmony, it's balance in nature, and the tenet of biomimicry is life creates conditions conducive for life. So, for example, a spider will take materials from its natural environment and an aqueous solution. At room temperature, it will make something 5 times the strength of steel, a spider web. And so also the coral reefs are like concrete. So we can make things based in nature and aligned with nature. We're just dealing with industry and petroleum right now. Everything's based on petroleum. And so I came out of the Amazon with some very progressive ideas, and we can do it. No different from Steve Jobs wanting to sell a handheld computer to everyone. And he did that, or the Wright brothers wanting to fly like an eagle. So whatever we can conceive and believe, we can achieve. And I'm here to do that.
Which is the biggest problems, because not only do we deal with obesity, I feel like the slave mind is really where almost everybody is hooked. And the more I turn away from, the more I free my mind and I see people like you, the more I feel also like this obligation to spread this information. I cannot longer... I have a hard time shooting TikToks and doing comedy when there is so much, when I see the world burn and I need to do something about it. And I have all this information the more I listen to podcasts, the more I educate myself, the older I get. And now having a family, it is so critical what you put in your body. And like you said, you need to fix yourself first before you can fix anybody else. You need to love yourself first to show any love to somebody else. It's so hard when you're a hater. You hate yourself. You hate how the way you look, and you're just fogged up with all the shit that you eat. You cannot save anyone.
Chemically castrated.
Yeah.
Literally, the food is affecting the hormones. Absolutely. And
Then the more you get into that, the more it's like they are here to poison us. Everything is about profit. We're not safe. The more you look into it, like if it is pharma, if it is nutrition, if it is water, if it is the clothes, the laundry detergent, everything is toxic. It is insane.
that is correct.
The toxicity level. I really want you to. It is so dark, and it saddens me because I'm a father now. I put children in this world. I want the best for my family.
Yes.
Not only like when you become a dad, you're not like priority number one anymore. I want my babies to be healthy. And sometimes I feel like where do I start? Like, what do I do?
Well, the first thing you can do is what you're already doing. You're getting clear. And as a father, that will definitely get your primal instincts out. If you're awakened and you're not completely involved in the matrix and sucked into the brainwashing and mind control. I mean, the Nazis were after this. They wanted to mind control people. They wanted aluminum in the body, and they wanted to inject them with solutions that would affect and uptake the aluminum in the brain, and then they would program it with Joseph Goebbels' propaganda. And Edward Bernays invented propaganda and PR. He was Freud's nephew, and he took all the technology of the Freudian understanding at that time, and he created PR, public relations, and advertising. There's a great book by Edward Bernays called Propaganda, and you can also watch a video on YouTube called The Century of Self. It was a documentary from the BBC on how exactly we are programming. At one time, they said smoking was good and doctors smoked, and they scientifically validate all these poisons for us, and they don't teach us the origins. And so we just got far away from it, and it's based in industry, and it's based in the money. And well, the way I see it is there's 5 major industries, and I do have a positive spin on everything, but there's 5 major industries, and that's agribusiness and the chemicals that are in agribusiness, which are intertwined with war profiteers. So for example, NPK is the fertilizer that they put on the farms and they sell to farmers. And that was bomb-making materials for World War II. And so when the war is over, these war profiteer companies, they don't have anywhere to put their products, so they put it in the soil. And then with the Vietnam War, they had to burn down the jungles to fight guerrilla warfare. And that's how we won the American Revolution, right? You shoot and then you hide behind a tree. And so that's exactly what the Viet Cong did. And so we had to burn the jungle to see where the enemy was. And they used napalm and Agent Orange. And that was created by Monsanto. It started in 1901 as a chemical company. And now it's masquerading itself as an agribusiness company. And they developed genetically modified organisms as well as glyphosate. And glyphosate takes out the endocrine system and the nervous system of pests or microbes. And so low-level long-term exposure takes out the good bacteria in your gut as well. And that's why people have so much gut dysfunction. They found glyphosate in women's breast milk, in fetal tissue, and they found it in the Arctic where there are no farms. So it's ubiquitous and you can't just wash it off. And so glyphosate is a big challenge. And there's many solutions like fulvic acid and natural solutions that chelate this stuff out of the body. Glyphosate was on the market, it has 3 patents. It's a desiccant. It chelates minerals out of farm irrigation equipment, and it's a pesticide, or I'm sorry, an herbicide. And so, and designed specifically for genetically modified corn and soy and stuff like that. And so, and this is, the statistics are showing up in our health statistics. Cancer's on the rise, diabetes on the rise. And so we've just gotten far away from nature. And nature, in my humble opinion and philosophy, heals everything. And the addendum to that is death is a part of life. So when it's your time to go, the microbes, the parasites, the fungus, they take over your body. The fungus it's Mother Nature's decomposers. And so, big part of my work is have a dream and a legacy big enough that drives you past, don't be a host. No, you're not going to eat on me, right? My stuff's strong, right? And then we have plants like garlic and cat's claw and sangre de drago, things that are very powerful that the microbes don't like, cloves, black walnut hulls, wormwood. And these are natural things because we didn't have hospitals, pharmacies, doctors, or even stores 150 years ago. We got the plants right off the earth.
So where do you get your food from?
Me? Well, now I live in the commercial world, so I do the best I can. I work with as many.
That's the problem, because I can't turn my back on social media and like have this information sitting on me and just like enjoy my self-grown vegetables and like my own hunted meat in the middle of nowhere, because you cannot just sit there and watch the world burn while you're healthy. I feel like I need to, almost like a Trojan horse, you need to like get this information. That's what I feel like you are. You're like a Trojan horse. You go into in this toxic social media. It's so funny when you say I love social media, because it's so absurd to me when you're like, you're barefoot and you're like, I don't know, drink urine, and you're like, you go on these crazy trips, and then you're like, I love social media, and I'm like, what? You're like that's like the worst, the most toxic. Looking into a screen, it is so absurd, this way of living, to be an influencer.
Yeah.
So it's you're literally the Trojan horse who like infiltrates this information into all these sick brains.
Yes.
And I'm trying to figure out a way where you can be as healthy and like balance you still work your way into the social media and get the information out, but you also try to like get your food and your nutrition as healthy as possible.
Yes, I work with farmers, farmer direct, mail order. So I work with a superfood company. So all my micronutrition, my herbs and dense nutrition like spirulina and wheatgrass, I partnered with a company, and we ship in Europe, the UK, and all over North America, including Canada. And we own farmland in Utah. And on volcanic ash beds and far away from the city centers and pollution. Yeah. And we have a vertical distribution model. We take one truck off the farm. It comes to our factory here in Compton, California, and then we distribute it straight to people's homes. We dry it at 88 degrees, so all the enzymes are intact. So all my dense nutrition, the micronutrition, and the minerals is in that. And then I source my macro meals, and I like fasting as well. I've been fasting and juicing for 33 years. So all my macronutrition I'll get from good farms, liver and bison, and I just eat organic wherever I can. I go to the farmers markets. I have an Amish raw milk connection in Phoenix. It's about an hour and a half outside of Phoenix. And we get good bug-fed, free-range, like legitimate eggs, and from healthy farms and healthy farmers. And there's some mail-order companies. Joel Salatin, Polyface Farms. He's a great guy to follow. He's just a man of the earth, and he's in the Shenandoah Valley and Virginia. And you can mail order from him. And he told me, everyone's welcome on my land 24/7. Right? If you want to come and check out his farm, he's not hiding anything. And I've heard people that have been out there, and there's all sorts of industrial, commercial farms around him. And then you get into his land, you come over the hill, and it's completely vibrant. And he allows the cows and the pigs and everybody to eat. And he grows food and herbs, and then he allows the animals to go on the land where they need to go. Alan Savory has some of the best research on healing the grasslands in Africa. And part of the reason Africa has been so decimated, because again, these are coup d'etats financed by the CIA because they want natural resources. Right now, the cobalt and the lithium is coming out of Africa, and the slaves are pulling it out for a very small wage. And so we displace them off of their land. We all heard maybe the movie Hotel Rwanda. I mean, we finance the weapons for those two groups of people to fight against each other. Then when they have destabilization, then the corporations just come in and take whatever they want. And so he understands how to replenish the grasslands with grass-fed ruminants, and then the predators, the lions, come and chase them and hunt them down. And when they stampede, they push all the poop into the ground, and that replenishes the microbes, and then the grass replenishes as well. And so the Savory Institute, and you can watch Alan Savory's TED Talk. It's still up on YouTube. And so we can do things a different way. And the closed organic life cycle, because everyone's trying to talk about eating bugs and vegan diets, and I got sick on the vegan diet, right? I got severely anemic. Life eats life. That's the closed organic life cycle. So we got energy from the sun converted into photosynthesis, and that creates chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is the exact same match to your hemoglobin, and there's an electron transfer. The chlorophyll has magnesium. Greens have magnesium, and most of us are magnesium deficient. This allows us to relax, not have anxiety, our muscles to relax. You can get that feeling. If you want to know if you're magnesium deficient, take an Epsom salt bath with 6 pounds of Epsom salts. And if you sleep like a baby, then you're magnesium deficient. And transdermal magnesium is great to get into the body, but greens on a daily basis, high quality greens, is where you're going to get your magnesium. So there's an electron transfer from hemoglobin. The hemoglobin has iron, but the molecular match is perfect. And then the omnivores eat the plants, and the herbivores eat the plants, and then the omnivores eat the herbivores and the plants. Everybody dies, and the microbes eats everything. Right? The little guys eats everything. And this is the closed organic life cycle on planet Earth. So life eats life, literally. And so watch out for those vegan diets that are getting sold as utopian, because I have rescued a lot of malnourished vegans on the internet over the years, and famous ones too, because they end up basing their whole brand on that. Yeah. And then they get sick, and then they hear me talking, and then they want to argue, and then we talk on the DMs, and then I come to them in dreams and stuff, and then they're like, and then I had a hamburger and I felt great. And then I invite a bunch of vegans when I was living in Sedona over to the house, and I have barbecues, and I make I make liver. We made goat head soup one time, and they ate it and they loved it, and they told me on the side I felt great. So I give them permission to go back and get healthy. And so we've gotten a little mixed up like pasta primavera, and I think it has to do with just selling ideas, but we've gotten away from the closed organic life cycle, and it's pretty simple. So I get most of my food from mail order, and then whatever I can find, wild fish, we trash the oceans. So I get some wild salmon every once in a while. Most of the sushi restaurants all have farmed fish, and so I'm pretty meticulous about what I eat because of the seed oils. They're industrial oils. There's no real restaurants I can go out to eat. You may be able to go to a steakhouse or a French restaurant, because the French know, you want the best, tastiest food, it's going to be organic. The Italians and the French, they realize that. So in LA, you might be able to source some better restaurants, but like Air One's good, and Cafe Gratitude has good food, even though it's vegan. At least it's clean. And then I cook at home with my kids, and I did a lot of research because I got some brain fog when I had kids, and I had black mold in one of my homes, and I got really sick and brain fog, and I was trying to monetize online and feed my family, and my brain wouldn't work. So I did a bunch of research, and I was on Psychology Today, and I was reading their research, and 7 out of 10 of their highest recommendations for mental health can be solved with a nutritious meal served with friends and family, a home-cooked meal, right? So get with your homies and other families and share food. Like, that's one of the best things that you can do to heal yourself. And there is good food available if you search it out. I mean, we're lucky because we live in the city centers, and Whole Foods is here, even though the prices are astronomical, but you can do it. And I'm here to tell people that they're worth it. Put yourself first, invest your money. You hear all this TikTok stuff, all these investors and these Lambo bros and this and that. I failed in some of my investments, but you know what? For the last 30 years, I've invested myself and it has paid dividends, serious dividends. And so invest in yourself first with the highest quality nutrition, living environment, water. You're 70% water, your brain's 90%. So get the highest quality, wrap your mind around that.
Did you know that when you're pregnant, you're the least cancerous? Your body is like the least, like that you're just as healthy as you can possibly be, and you refuse. Baby J is pregnant, and she refuses to go out to eat because her body is just like doesn't want it.
Yeah, I can't do it. I try to eat like out, even Erewhon. I used to love Erewhon, and I can't eat their hot meals anymore. It's too salty, and I just feel so bad after. And I'm still hungry, and I have headaches, and we've been just
We switched
cooking.
completely to homemade food,
Yeah.
mostly because of the pregnancy. But then we realized if you care about yourself and your health, you cannot go to a restaurant.
Correct.
You cannot trust a restaurant. You know, you can't trust doctors and pharma, but you can also not trust a restaurant that they will serve you. You don't know where that meat comes from. You don't know what oils they use. You don't know how much salt they use. You don't know.
That's correct.
You know, no matter the price, no matter if it's the best steakhouse in town and you pay $200 for a steak, you have no idea if that cow ate grass or not, you know?
That's correct. I mean, Jelena and Justa traditionally were using much higher quality stuff, but I know the chef sold that business. And Jelena used to be great. It was farm to table. And so have you ever tried it in Venice?
No.
And Justa is behind Gold's. They would use Italian wheat, so I could handle a little bit of their sourdough. And Justa's got a takeaway as well. But again, I know the chef moved on, so I don't know the quality control on it. But if you can find a good farm-to-table restaurant that you can trust, then you can trust that. Otherwise,
Yeah, even Erewhon, actually, there was a couple videos that they said that they've been using seed oil now for the hot bar.
I
which
believe
is
it.
Very heartbreaking because the
cut corners.
prices are unbelievable. It's crazy. I mean, even the memberships. I think you pay like $200 to be a member at Erewhon, and you think you're like getting quality food. And now,
But the
you
human
just-
race, there's something about it where we just want to make profit out of everything on everybody's expense. You know, there is. What do you think? Like, why? How do these people operate? Like, how do they sleep at night? These people behind the matrix, or like, do you live in you know, in denial, or you're so sick that you don't see that you're the devil?
Yes. Well, so I think the research shows about 6% of the population has a propensity to be a psychopath. And a psychopath definition is neurologically they get pleasure from your pain. And so I like to couch this, you know, try and find the silver lining. So there's two forces that are guiding everything: yin, yang, masculine, feminine, inhalation, exhalation, up, down, dark, light. And so it's everywhere. And I like to say the situation that we find ourselves in, how do you wake up a human being? It's no different from the sheet of concrete over the dirt and the grass comes through it, right? You've seen towns that turned into ghost towns, right? And nature and earth will just keep growing. So for us to go to the next level, we basically oppress the shit out of ourselves. We've enslaved ourselves with the debt slave economy, the monetary system. It's not egalitarian. There's no intrinsic value. There's no gold backing. It's based on the petrodollar, right? And so, and then central banking, and then you look into the history of central banking and how that was set up and the predatory lending. Michael Moore made a couple movies. He made one called Sicko, and it was not so much how we're sick, but the insurance company and what they actually pay for, and subsidized medicine in Europe and stuff like that. This guy had cancer in the movie, and they give you leave, sick leave. And he took 6 months off, fucked off down in the south of France and Nice, and got a tan and came back, and he was great, you know? And so he made the movie Sicko, and then he made another movie. Well, there was The Big Short, which they talked about the housing crisis. So they shaved off all that money for the mortgages and the predatory lending there, and then they crashed the market, and then Obama paid all the banks off to the point where I think if we would have just paid the American people, I think every man, woman, and child could have bought a 3-bedroom house 18 times over if we just gave it to the people, right? So they gave it to the banks. So it's predatory lending. And what was the name of the movie that Michael Moore made on, I think it was the housing crisis that he made. Anyhow, I mean, the information is out there, and I don't want to just put it in the, they and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. They do set up these systems, right? They started the UN, the WHO, the Rockefellers did. And in Rothschild's biography, it says, it matters not who makes the laws. Whoever controls the currency controls the people. Whoever controls the food controls the people. And now whoever controls the mind and undermines, divide and conquers the family, right? You see what's happening with the gender bending and the race baiting and just toxic masculinity. They're dividing men and women, and they're easier to control. If we're fighting amongst ourselves and we can't change the biggest parts of the system, which again, I was going to point that out earlier. So it's media owned by the multinational conglomerates in pharma, weapons, and agribusiness. So it's weapons, oil, agribusiness, pharma, and media. And media keeps everything in control. And we saw that with social media because I got censored during the pandemic. My friend made that movie, by the way, Plandemic, and it had 18 billion views. So obviously there was some interest, and the internet scrubbed it, right? Social media scrubbed the whole thing. You can find it at plandemicmovie.com, I believe is the website. And it's hard to Google Plandemic, though. And so he made 3 movies, and he wrote a book, and he also has a small documentary called The Truth About Ivermectin, which had a Nobel Prize, and it takes out parasites and any kind of like your common cold, and you could buy it in Latin America like aspirin, right? And then they banned it, and they
of course they did,
and they propagandized Joe Rogan and said it was horse dewormer,
yeah.
And then people knew about that. I mean, we deworm our horses and we deworm our dogs. So, I do parasite cleanses for people as well. And you got to clean out the critters every once in a while. And you can't kill them forever because they got billions of years of ecological development on us. We have to stay in balance. You have to keep your system strong. So those industries are keeping things in place. The dark forces are awakening us. If you study the Mayan prophecies, the Hopi prophecies, this is just a great time of awakening, and those that are aware, it's up to us. We have skills, talents, we have connections. We're living in the first world. The Second Amendment, I do believe, is keeping any vestiges of freedom on planet Earth for the rest of everyone. So it's up to us that have any amount of freedom to rise up. I tell my children, like, you're educated, you're awake, you're aware, you're talented, you're athletic. You have a huge responsibility. There's no laziness. Do your chores. I don't care if that's my dish. You do it. You get going, because it's not going to be nice when you're out there in the world, right? Bake those chores into it. Make it difficult for them so they can rise up. And no, you don't get to be pissy, sassy, stuck up, or any of that stuff. You have a responsibility.
So do they sit together and plan this out?
The kids?
The Matrix.
Oh, the Matrix.
Do they work together, or is it like when the pandemic happened, I really thought you would see a country not controlled, or like some sort of like resistance, like how it was in Sweden, where you have like some sort of like, hey, what's going on? Maybe they don't have their fingers in every country, until you realize that it is just, they control the whole world. There is not really a place you can go. There's not really a system, because like I always think like maybe, why stay in America, or like maybe there is a country that has like better healthcare, where I can trust my doctor, where I can trust my food. But it seems like even in Austria, where you can drink the water out of the faucet and you have free healthcare, free education, my dad like still is behind the booster and like really reads the newspaper and like is all in, even in Austria, where you have like doctors that spend more than 7 minutes on you. You know, they don't get a better paycheck if they get you to take more medicine. The medication is very low. I think they take like half of the medication that America takes, and they don't spend any money on it. So what do you like? They control everything.
Well, if we're looking at cartels or like the RICO laws, which is like extortion and mob type of stuff, and we look at the way it was set up. So, for example, just go back to Rockefeller medicine, and there's a great video, if it's not taken off YouTube, but it's called Rockefeller Medicine. James Corbett, he's an investigative journalist. He lives in Japan. I think he's Canadian, maybe. Really, really smart guy. And it's a 45-minute documentary on the history of the Rockefellers who started Standard Oil. They discovered Standard Oil. And I do believe John D. Rockefeller's father was a snake oil salesman. And so they ended up discovering oil. And if you know, Daniel Day-Lewis did a movie about that family. And the Rockefellers, if you own the railroads or the way stations or the transportation or anything in your way, he either bought it up or crushed them in business, right? This is why we have the monopoly laws, even though they're not paid attention to, just like our Indian treaties. Like if there's uranium in the ground in Los Alamos and it's under an Indian treaty, we push them off into these barren lands. And so, but we just go against the treaty. We take whatever we want as far as industry goes. And so you're seeing this in Lahaina right now with the Maui fires. They're just taking that land from those people. And as far as I can see, that wasn't a natural disaster. That we have directed energy weapons. We have laser technology. We've been seeding the clouds and changing the weather for 50 or 60 years. And so if you look at the history of Rockefeller medicine, they started the American Medical Association. They started the UN. And the UN, I do believe, has the WHO inside of the UN. And then they used the propaganda from Edward Bernays, and they just repeated it over and over again. So basically, you give up your power and your authority for those in white coats, right? And so, and everything ends up being scientifically validated. That's how they got glyphosate on the market. It got approved by the FDA or however that system works. There's also a movie called The Corporation to understand the revolving door for bureaucratic legislators and people are in the government, and then they go to the heads of corporations. They're CEOs of the corporation. So, for example, Dick Cheney, who is in George Bush Jr.'s administration, he was the CEO or vice president of Halliburton. Now, Halliburton is a contracting company that builds infrastructure. So they were deployed, Halliburton and Bechtel, these big corporations, they were deployed in Iraq. And I want to get into Iraq, Idi Amin and Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, because these are the guys that stood up against the Matrix, right? And then they vilify them in the propaganda. And then we funded and supplied Saddam Hussein for many years. And then when he didn't want to play the game, then we just went after him and took whatever natural resources that we wanted. So where was I? Because I'm going a little broad. So the American Medical Association was started by the Rockefellers. Then
Rockefeller family.
Rockefeller Foundation, they do all sorts of funding for Harvard, Yale. They have their grants, right? And they supply grants so you can do what's called research bias. My mentor, Paul Chek, he says, scientists are the prostitutes of the modern era because you can crunch data and leave data out and say whatever you want. And this is what we see on the news. And the news from day one, even the news reports, the advertising on the news is pay-per-play, but actually the reports are too. How did they get us on these grain-healthy diets, heart-healthy diets? Just use vegetable oil, not saturated fat, right? Saturated fat is what makes our cholesterol. and cholesterol makes our hormones, right? And so they vilified cholesterol, got us all on seed oils. And what did this do? It got us fatter and sicker. And so they have the universities that are set up, and then the height of, like, when you go to school, sit down, shut up, consume, conform, and comply is what you're taught. And the Rockefellers also brought in the industrial age school system, which designed us to be factory workers and slaves. And they cloud our mind with all sorts of linguistics and mathematics that we don't end up using. And then they teach history from the point of view of the victors, and they can write history books the way they please. A good book to read to understand history from the loser's side is Howard Zinn's book, A People's History of the United States. That's just one example. And so you sit down, you shut up. If Johnny's a good little boy, he'll get to be a doctor or a lawyer. And what does doctoring do? Doctoring allows for prescription of toxic compounds, and lawyering makes white collar crime legal, right? And the word attorney means to take from one another and give to the other, right? And so, and it's court, right? It's back and forth. And you can represent yourself, but if you don't know the law, that's no excuse, right? And so I stood up for myself in court multiple times with no attorney. And it's dangerous. They'll railroad you just if you don't know a technicality. And the ultimate, even if you get a good attorney, everything's based on a technicality. That's how OJ got off, right? They fought the race card, the this, the that. It's whoever can argue the point of view best. So these systems are set up. And so the American Medical Association was started, and that's kind of where everything goes through. What I tell my ex-wife and what I do for myself is I stay away from doctors and the state as much as humanly possible. And these cottage industries, look what happened to the family, right? Divorce rates are insane right now. It's like 75%. And I think most marriages end in divorce within 2 to 5 years. And then there's cottage industries that are set up around that, and the lawyers get involved, and it's all this money, bling, 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 right? And it's all this, the culture of more. And I think family's so important. And I bring this up because feminism was instituted in 1973. The second wave of feminism came on with Gloria Steinem. Burn your bra and let everybody else, you don't have to work for a man. Let them make their own food and clean the house. But what did the women do? They went out and worked for another man at a corporation, right? Is that empowerment? Who's watching the children? Oh, what happened to the children? Oh, obesity and cancer. And who's the natural nurturers of the children in the family? The woman, naturally. It's just baked into our culture. So they separated that. I say that because my mother didn't start working until 1979, and it was a hobby. And now at 76, she has to work every single day. The housing crisis took 2 of her houses. My grandmother died. She bought a house in Hawaii. Then they were going to buy another house that was a better deal. And she was stuck with 2 houses when everything crashed. And so she lost both houses. And so the systems are set up. And then the petrochemical byproducts are what sticks pesticides and herbicides to the plants. So you've got petrochemical byproducts in plastics. Everybody's burning gasoline, and then you've got petrochemical byproducts that are in pharmaceutical drugs. So the pharmaceutical companies are also invested in the agribusiness companies. So the food gets us sick, and then they sell us the antidote, which is the silver bullet. This does that. But actually, and then there's toxic side effects, erectile dysfunction, or even death. Ask your doctor if this is right for you. And so people are on multiple medications, right? They're not just on one. They're not just on the silver bullet that's ready to solve all your problems. And I say this because people come to me and they want the silver bullet. And it's like, well, no, you need sleep, and the body needs movement, and you need pure water. And these are basic fundamental principles. You can't go, that's what the book is all about, the 9 pillars of health, immutable laws, or in physics, they call them first principles. And so we've dumbed down the population with Rockefeller. They brought in the King of Prussia education. So the children are at school and they're being indoctrinated by the state, and that so the parents can go to the factories and work. And so so they brought in the education system. Then they started the AMA. So me as a holistic practitioner, I can't treat, mitigate, or cure anything. Even though I know how the human body works, I can't use certain language. But health and disease can't coexist. So you want to be healthy? Then be healthy. The study of disease begets more disease. We've been studying cancer and the war on cancer and throwing millions of dollars at it forever, and the statistics just get worse. So these are the way the systems are set up, and it's all baked in with television advertising, television news reports. It's all propaganda. So it's deep, it's set in. That's why when you talk to people about the truth, they're like, I didn't hear that on the news. That's conspiracy theory. And the word conspiracy theory was set up by the CIA for people questioning the JFK assassination. So this is all mind control tricks. And, you just have to look into what happened and certain operations by the CIA. So for example, MK Ultra. MK Ultra, they use psychedelics and they programmed people with that. And supposedly there's people that are still on that. And those are some of the gun shooters. Whatever it is, it's a level of mind control. Then you have Operation Paperclip that brought all the Nazi scientists and their scientists and their knowledgeable people over here, and they put them in the pharmaceutical companies, the media companies, and NASA, right? Operation Paperclip, you can look it up. Then MK Ultra, and then Mockingbird, Operation Mockingbird, to get the media to keep repeating the same thing over and over again. And then we're all disconnected. We all got to work in the money system, that there's no intrinsic value. And so it's like modern day slavery. And so I like to say no one's free until we're no one's free until we're all free. And so I'm the Pied Piper of human liberation. Like, let's get it together. But the first thing is you have to understand what's happening. And then we design the future, as Buckminster Fuller said. You don't have to fight the systems. They're rotten to the core. We just go over here. I like the colors. We go towards the rainbows and the purple hearts, right? And we create it. And we use humor, because laughter is the best medicine, to get beyond all this stuff. Because if we sit here and talk about it, we get drained and we're like, oh, the systems are fucked. We're fucked. And it's like, no, we're not fucked. We're human beings. We're all children of God. And we're imbued with the power of the Creator to create whatever we can design out of our minds. And so that's why I love social media, because we're getting people's attention. And now we're speaking truth. And people listening to this, in their heart of hearts, they know, oh, that is the truth. Oh yeah, let me not feed into this nonsense anymore. Let me feed my body good food. Let me find these farms that he's talking about and the mail order, and let me chuck them down my neck, and let me see how I do. Oh, fasting is real? Yeah, fasting's real. Fasting's a great way to heal the human body. Fasting and sleep are the best ways to heal the human body. Oh, let me practice some of that. Some woman just cured Lyme's disease and wrote a book. You can find it on Amazon. She dry fasted for 9 days straight, and she cured Lyme's disease. She was suicidal. She was ready to kill herself. And she studied with this Russian guy who's been taking people through these fasts. And so fasting, you can heal almost anything and get away from the poison. And so you've got the AMA, the oil system. So let's tie it all in together, because the countries that you were saying that Sweden didn't...
Or like these families that set it up, right? I understand, like for somebody that doesn't understand the matrix.
The Committee of 300 or the Council of 13, the Club of Rome, the Bilderbergs, the Council on Foreign Relations, these are all secret societies that JFK talked about. And so they are setting up policy. The World Economic Forum, they have policy in Sedona, Arizona that was baked in 2014. And when I interviewed the vice mayor, he had no idea. I said, what is this ICLEI Foundation? You voted it in, you put it into policy. It's all about getting electric vehicles in there and fining people if they don't have electrical setup. And then you can't drive, you have to get on public transport. And Stalin, that's how he controlled the people, through transportation. And so I was living in Sedona, right down the street from Cathedral Rock. I cannot drive my car down there. It's blocked off. And so you have to get on public transportation just to get down there. This is the beginning, and it's a 3-step policy. And this is what they're doing, the totalitarian tiptoe. And each step of the way, from 9/11, I flew before there was a TSA. Like, there was no TSA. And now you're treated like an absolute criminal just going to the airport. And that's by design. They want you to get into the framework of getting in line, like getting on the train to Auschwitz. Like they want us trained, like, oh, this is just normal. Oh, just behave yourself, right? I don't even want to fly anymore. And I've traveled most of my life. I've been all around the world, and I don't have a desire because I don't want to be treated like a criminal. And so they keep, and this is the United States of America. It's the only country on planet Earth that has our God-given rights written on a piece of paper, right? And so that's why this is, some people call it the most advanced civilization that's ever walked the face of the planet. The problem is that our military has been co-opted by these families, by the military-industrial complex. Our military-industrial complex has been co-opted, and we go against other people. So people that have stood up, like Sweden, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I'm sure they got some kind of economic spank on the wrist, right? Some kind of geopolitical kind of ploy. Idi Amin was in the 70s, I think 1974. They put him on Time magazine. They made him out to be a cannibal. And I don't know all the intricacies of him, but he didn't want to be on the petrodollar. And they also wanted the oil and the natural resources that were in his country, and he stood up for him. Saddam Hussein, same way. The CIA funded him, gave him the chemical weapons, right? And then he was supposed to have weapons of mass destruction. Remember that bamboozlement? There was no weapons of mass destruction. It was the oil. We all knew it was the oil, but of course there was all these UN hearings, and Colin Powell, tried to say there's weapons of mass. There was no weapons of mass destruction. It was the oil. We wanted the oil. I got hip to the whole oil situation because I was sitting in the Amazon drinking ayahuasca with the shamans down there, and I started thinking about all this stuff, and there was a plane going over my head at about 30, 40,000 feet, and I just thought, oh, wow. You feel very vulnerable on the ayahuasca, and your heart's wide open, and I hadn't heard a plane that deep in the jungle in like weeks, and I was like, wow. I was like, what if they just started, dropping bombs like they do in Iraq? And this was 2006. It was right after the war started there. And I was just like, wow, man, those are our brothers and sisters over there, we're dropping fucking bombs on those people. And then I thought about George Bush and what he was up to. And, Dick Cheney, again, he was the vice president of Halliburton. These are industrial contracts, military contracts. They go in and build roadways, dams, energy systems to get the natural resources out of these third world countries. So I read the book, John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And basically the way of the world is this. We will give bank loans from the IMF or the World Bank to third world countries, and then we'll ask them to pay them back. Oh, you can't pay back? Okay, no problem. We've built the roads and the dams and the electrical lines, and we've brought your country into development, right? Okay, now pay us back. Oh, you can't pay it back? All right, no problem. Just give us your natural resources and get your people to pull it out at a slave wage. Oh, you don't want to do that? Okay, coup d'etat, right? Idi Amin, Saddam Hussein. When they really don't want to play it, that's when we send in the American military. So we did it in Chile with Pinochet. We did it in Panama with Noriega. We were in Ecuador. We destabilized Venezuela. So oil exploration is the number one deforestation component in the Amazon. They cut the roads looking for the oil. They fell these giant trees and they cut roads with tractors and everything. If the oil's not there, they pull out and they look other places. And then what happens from there is the Indians are given $1 a day and a chainsaw, and they can go and fell the trees, and then they bring that out to the tributaries, take them to Iquitos and the bigger cities, and then they sell those as lumber for Home Depot. And the rainforest is being cut down at an alarming clip. Then they burn the bush, and then they grow soybeans, or they graze cattle. And this is the oxygen of planet Earth. And I was working down there and drinking the ayahuasca, and I could feel all this stuff. I was like, I got to do something. So oil exploration is the number one deforestation component in the Amazon. And then you have, so number one supplier of oil is Saudi Arabia. We've already posted up there for years, right? We've got military bases over there. Then we've got Iraq is number two And that's why we're over there. Number 3 is Iran. We're always threatening war against them. And even though there's all these trade embargoes, we're still doing business with these people, right? And so even though we call them our enemy. Number 4 is Venezuela. You see what happened to Venezuela recently. Number 5 is Ecuador, and we have bases in Ecuador. And number 6 is Peru, and that's a big part of the deforestation. Number 9 is Libya, and we fought that guy for the longest time. He had free education. He had good water. They were growing food. They had food forests in the desert because he brought in all the permaculture technology, and the place was thriving. But it's number 9, so we destabilized that. Remember when we did that? Benghazi, 2011. And then Syria and Afghanistan are about pipelines and strategic positions to get the oil out of the ground. So we're acting like it's not the oil, it's the oil. And we're all running everything on oil. And so, and the Rockefellers were the first oil men, or the big oil men, and that was Standard Oil. And they had all the money to invest in the American Medical Association, the UN, all the universities, and setting up the American Medical Association. And still fund some of those projects. So it's total control and controlling the population. And I believe that we can free humanity up. I think a lot of the human avarice that's happening in the dog eat dog is because of the money system, the way it's set up. Because if we set up, there's 4 human needs. There's fire, food, water, and shelter. Those are the only 4 needs. Everything else is a want. And so, and fire is represented with technology now because electricity, fire powers all this stuff. And so, so those are the 4 wants. If we build a society around that, we get very clear on what's essential for the human organism to proliferate, then we can build permaculture as a major solution. It's how you grow food in a food forest, and it just replenishes itself. Then we have self-care education. We teach each other how to take care of the body. We teach that at elementary school. As above, so below is the natural law of correspondence. How do we expect the world to be healthy if we're not healthy? And so we teach that at the child level. And then everybody knows how to take care of themselves. So we keep our side of the street clean, right? That's what we can do. We can only really take care of ourselves. If we want to change the world, we have to take care of ourselves. Gift economy, the Zulu nation in Africa figured this out. It's called Ubuntu. It means contributionism. And Greg Braden has a lot of research on this. Organisms proliferate when they cooperate. And that goes back to biomimicry, creating systems that are conducive for living. We can build houses out of natural materials that are safe. I mean, the Mexicans, they build adobe out of cob and dirt, right? And they're building earth ships in New Mexico as well. We can definitely do things in a better way and also keep it safe. Buckminster Fuller, one of the most amazing engineers of the 20th century, he invented the geodesic dome. We're not supposed to be in cornered walls. It's not natural. And so, and then I believe that Tesla technology, free energy, or cold fusion, however you want to slice it, will free everyone up. And Nikola Tesla already invented it, and JP Morgan was financing his laboratory in Long Island, and he created it. And after, it's free wireless energy for everyone. And JP Morgan was like, well, how are you going to meter it? And he's the one who ran the copper wires across the United States of America, and copper mining and electricity and all the wires. I live in Arizona. It's beautiful there. And then there's wires everywhere. Utah, wires, these big, huge wires. We can have free energy. But of course, that's going to cut the Rockefellers out, and the whole oil situation and the copper wires and all the banking and everything else. So that's not going to be good for those guys. And so I say free humanity. So whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And we can create zero-point technology. They were on it in the 80s. John Harriman was melting steel blocks at room temperature up in Canada. And they shut him down. They kill a lot of these people. They take them right out. And so I'm just calling forth a better solution. I believe that we can do it. And it's no different from the Wright brothers wanting to fly like an eagle. Go read the newspapers from back in 1903. They said, man will never fly. Anyways, I rambled quite a bit, but thank you for letting me get all this out. These are my ideas I've been baking in my head since I came out of the Amazon in 2006.
Yeah, it's so interesting to learn all of this. I'm like amazed. But before my legs go numb, I do want to talk to you a little bit about pregnancy.
Yes.
So this will be my second pregnancy, and I really would love to do a natural birth. I would love to not go to a hospital, of course, but a hospital, my first pregnancy is all I know. And it's very nerve-wracking to do something that you don't know much about. And the first time we went to the hospital, the whole process was really scary. I was induced, so I was given Pitocin it was called, right? And I was just like in so much pain, and it
Look
was
that up.
fucking
And you
crazy.
pregnant women, look that drug up.
Yeah.
And look at what the CDC, the WHO has to say about it. Really understand what they're going to put in your body.
Yeah, no, it's so fucked up, and we don't want to go through that again. And also, I don't want an epidural again. And then also, I want to talk to you about like the vaccines, because nowadays,
Can you believe in the hospital they give you a hepatitis B shot right from the bat?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got to be vigilant. They started putting the antibacterial cream on my daughter. I said, "What is that? Don't you touch my daughter?" I said, "Oh, we're on autopilot." And I'm like, "No, I'm here. Me, Troy Casey, right here. Anything you do to that child, you say to me first." And they're like, "Okay." And then they're like, "Sir, can you sign these papers here?" And blah 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 blah. I'm like, paperwork? I don't trust you. No, I'm not gonna. Okay. And then they tried to ask me 2 or 3 times, and they get the other nurse or the head nurse, and I was like,
"You're a problem at this point."
I was like, no. And so I don't know what that is. No. How about no? And they're like, well, we'll save the child's life anyway. And I'm like, okay, good, do that. I was like, you don't need my signature for something, And so that was a good move, because a couple days later, because my daughter ended up, my ex-wife had preeclampsia, and so they induced, and we were set for another home birth. My son did you watch my son in his water birth? It's one of the first videos I had, and it you can find it on my YouTube channel, the water birth. It was such a beautiful experience. And the second one, she had complications, and we ended up in the hospital, and then we ended up with all this, what you said. And then luckily I had a friend who was a doula, and she's like, well, didn't the WHO or the CDC ban that for blah, 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 blah? And they just shut up. They moved on to the next thing. And my wife took the epidural, and it didn't work. And she went for the second shot. And that's when
always happens.
And that's when the baby came out. And then that's when the antibacterial cream went on her eye. And I said, what's that? And I go, no. And then I followed her right to the NICU. And then they started to get me to sign these papers, and I'm like, no. And then the HR department came down there, and she's like, I've worked here for 10 years, and you were the first person that said no, like this. And I was like, okay, good, no. And it was Ronald Reagan, God bless their soul, the medical industry, for whatever it's worth. I mean, it was great. The place is made out of marble, and it was such a beautiful experience. And thank you, everyone over there. But my main, because I studied, the number one cause of death is doctor-induced malpractice, properly prescribed prescriptions, adverse reactions, mistakes, hospital mistakes. Like they don't compile all the data, but it's the number one thing. And I'm like, all I want to do is get out of it, latch baby onto mama and get out. And so that was 5 days.
Do? I mean,
So I have people for you here, and I studied with midwives. I work with Maori healers from New Zealand, indigenous healers. Like, just imagine, what was it like 150, 200 years ago? You just go out around the tree and have the baby, and the husband's supporting as much as possible, and you're eating natural food, and you're walking, and you're doing stuff, because the walking opens up the hips, right? So keep walking, just keep walking. And so I work with Maori, and even the men, they're all healers, and they're also all midwives. They're capable of helping with this. There's also a point in the knee that you can rub that will help induce labor. And so So I will connect you with my group of midwives, doulas in this town. And so Lori Bregman, I do believe, is in Santa Monica, and she counsels women on this all the time. I'll connect you with her. And then you interview a handful of midwives and see who you want to work with, right? Because it's a very personal experience. We had my son in water in my living room in Santa Monica, and I went to the farmer's market that day and bought all the natural food and came home and fed my wife and stuff. It was like great. We weren't in a hospital with weird food. And the midwife was there. He had a double nuchal, my son, so the cord was wrapped around his neck twice.
Yeah, too.
And her assistant, who was a beautiful assistant, this girl, assisted Davy Kalsa, who's been doing this for 30 years. She's probably still available. She's over on Robertson. And her assistant was there, and it's natural, not freaking out. And she just had her finger up there, double nuchal. So when the baby came out, she just flipped him right around. And he just came out, and there was no problems whatsoever. He was underwater. You got to watch the video. He was underwater for 2.5 minutes with his eyes poked out. He was
Wow.
Yeah, it was a trip.
They take the first breath when you
Yeah,
mix
and
them up.
everything's coming through the umbilical cord.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it just comes down to awareness. I mean, think about it, right? Before all the programming and Rockefeller medicine, we did this all the time, and it wasn't unheard of women having 9 children, right? And so, this is what we do. We're human beings. We procreate, right? This is the most powerful force we have. You know, I want to get into a little bit of nofap and hookup culture and pornography mind, because we've gone like away from that. We're misusing our most powerful energy, and so as a cultural phenomenon, and so having awareness around your creative powers and trusting the body. Right? We have too many Hollywood movies with the legs in a stirrup in a hospital, screaming, right? With all those harsh lights on us and stuff, and on the baby, first when he's coming out. It's not a medical procedure, it's natural, right? And they hand out C-sections like they're going out of style, right? And coming through the vaginal canal squeezes the pineal gland, and the DMT comes out. So you have a DMT experience when the baby comes. And if you don't have that, I've heard statistically the psychologists and psychiatrists have problems with C-section children because they don't have that experience. The brain is soft, right? They got the soft spot. So coming through the vaginal canal, it's squeezed, right? And also your gut microbiome. In the vagina, it gets all over the baby's mouth, and it gets in their mouth, and it impregnates them with the gut microbiome, all the healthy bacteria. And so this is natural. Instead, we're putting on antibacterial cream and all this nonsense. And so,
So what do you think makes more money, a C-section or a vaginal birth?
Of course, it's the same thing with COVID and what they were doing. If you call it COVID, $13,000. If you put them on a ventilator, $39,000, right? And so all the statistics went through the roof. It's money making.
And same with the vaccines.
Well, absolutely. I mean, just read the ingredients. It's poison. Why do you need that? I'm going to trust God, and you know what? I'm going to die anyway, so let me die. I don't need doctors. What do I need a doctor for? I'm going to die. Right? I definitely don't need to be poisoned or get MRSA in the hospital or poisoned with drugs. Why do I need that? We didn't need it before. Why do we need it now? We've advanced. Okay. All right. Well, I'll trust in God, right? I'll trust in my immune system. I'll trust in that. And if I'm going to die, that's the way I'm going to go out. Okay. No problem. I mean, that's my general philosophy, and there's nothing wrong with a little bit of commercialism and some drugs here and there. I've definitely experimented and rode the razor's edge, and I was vaccinated as a child. I had earaches. They wrote in my baby book. I had massive earaches right after my vaccinations. And if you look at Robert Kennedy Jr., children'shealthdefense.org is one of the best resources for vaccines and all that stuff. Robert Kennedy Jr. He took all the Harvard and Yale data on safety and
That's
efficacy.
the podcast you watched. Okay.
Yeah, and there is no safety or efficacy in his research.
No, and all the statistics are modeled and like changed. Even if you get like, okay, the studies, they're all from the same people that finance the vaccines. So you don't get clean stats.
It's called research bias.
Yes.
Faux science.
And the real ones get pushed out or even banned. And people that talk about it get banned. So you can't even look it up anymore. So now that they control the social media, and did you know that New Zealand and America is the only countries where pharma is allowed to advertise?
Advertising. Yep.
That's banned everywhere else. It's only allowed here, and they pay 80% of the advertisers. So if YouTube doesn't align with their advertisers, you're just going to be banned. So when Kennedy Jr. posts about this, it will just get off. If it's true or not, it doesn't matter because it doesn't align with the advertisers.
Yeah. A good place to research is VAERS, VAERS. It's the Vaccine Adverse Event Reaction Reporting Service. And okay, so I helped Robert Kennedy Jr. fund a film, and I saw him speak at a dinner, and it was called the 1986 Act. It's probably available somewhere online. And so Congress put through a bill. Pharmaceutical lobby and the oil lobby are the biggest lobbies, and they just saddle up to politicians and their buddy, and they buy them lunches and vacations and all this stuff. This is the way our legislation system is set up. It's completely corrupt, and so they're just like, yeah, let's make this bill and let's push it through. And basically, what it did was exonerate all the vaccine manufacturing companies from liability of their product. Nowhere in the free world is any manufacturer exonerated from liability from their product. You know, your car catches on fire, you're liable for it, right?
But not the vaccines.
It's not the vaccines. But here's the thing. There's been $4 billion paid out to vaccine injured children and family. Usually it's encephalitis and brain damage and death. And it's very hard to prove. But since 1986, $4 billion has been paid out. And there were only, I think it's severely underreported, and there was only about 4,000 documented cases before 2019. And now there's like 19,000 reported cases, right? So it exponentially grew during this last vaccination situation. And then we went from, I think I had 6 vaccines as a child. And we went from, a handful to 85 or something
85.
like that.
So what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's total corruption. And then there's your answer on what you want to do. It's VAERS. Go read all the data on there. There's already been payouts. And who pays for that? If the pharmaceutical companies aren't liable, who's paying for that? The taxpayers. That's government money. And $4 billion has been paid out. If there's no vaccine injuries, why did you pay these people out? And it's very hard to prove and litigate, and it's severely underreported. So you could probably just, instead of 4,000 reported, maybe it's about 400,000, and the statistics are completely off. If one kid can die, that's like Russian roulette with a machine gun. There's 36 shots in this clip. Here you go. You can play Russian roulette with the baby? No. No. And then how many people do you know with autism or autistic kids and the level of the spectrum? And then now we've got the trans kids and all this other stuff and the chemically castrated and the atrazine in the water and the forever chemicals, and people are confused.
Bro.
Right, it's by design.
The men are so soft and female.
They're soft. They're
Did
soft.
you see that thing that Kennedy
You come
posted?
from
Excuse me, guys.
Austria,
I
the
have
land
to go
of
to the
the
bathroom. Sorry.
Did you see what Kennedy posted about the frogs?
Yeah, well, Alex Jones said that years ago, and then he got lambasted for that. But the Navajo Indians fought. I was living in Sedona for a while, and there's a snowboarding resort, Snow Bowl, up in Flagstaff. I think it's 11,000 feet. And the Navajo Nation is up there. The Indian reservations are up there, big Indian population. And they're in touch with the nature and the natural rhythm. And they're like, you're going to put fake water and fake snow on there? that's tap water, and there's already medical drugs. It's known. There's atrazine. There's all these things in wastewater. You're going to put that as snow, and then it's going to go into the tributaries, and it's going to turn the frogs gay, and it's going to mess up, because tadpoles and frogs and dragonflies and mosquitoes, these are at the essence of life on Earth. You can't just kill this stuff. Bees, stuff like that. You can't just kill it and annihilate it. You'll annihilate all of life. The fabric of life is intertwined inextricably. And so the Navajo protested just putting fake snow or treated water on Snowbowl. And so, because it's going to mess up the cycle of life. And then, of course, Alex Jones talked about this and talked about making the frogs gay, and then he got banned, right? And then I like the fact that Kennedy's talking about it now, because he's a little bit more articulate, and he comes from the Kennedy family. Yeah. And so, yeah, we're just out of balance, and it's time. It's a clarion call to get back to balance. People want it. You know, you're awakened. You got kids. That will awaken. You got money and you got kids. Because my kids went to Westside Waldorf, and there was all sorts of celebrities and affluent people there, and they had gluten sensitivities. They all figured it out. They had holistic coaches like myself or some of my colleagues. They come in there, they gut the house of all the phthalates and the detergents and all the fragrances and all this stuff, and they help the families get healthy.
But that's why they don't want families. I think the main point, like you said, before I was about the Lambos and the Rolex and just this like be financially as successful as possible. And I didn't think I was going in and out and just like not sleeping. I was working out, being big, but like that was about it. So I was completely programmed. But once I become a dad, your life changes. So what do they want to do? They want to they want to destabilize the family. They want to make the man as female as possible, the female as male as possible, so it's completely dysfunctions.
There's no polarization. There's no boner when you see a hot chick.
No. And even better is like they want you like semi-depressed and just alone on your screen. And also most people don't even want kids anymore. Right. So if you don't have kids, you don't have that change, so you don't care. You're a complete narcissist that only cares about their financial success. And that's how they destabilize everybody and make everybody a slave.
That's right. And I like what Dana White says. If you're even marginally awake and strong these days, you're going to be a fucking savage because everyone else is weak.
It couldn't be easier.
Yep.
And I don't even need to go to the jungle and take ayahuasca to have this awakening. I am so drawn towards people like you, drawn towards this information. I wonder, when you speak about these families, the setup, how they set everything up, did they do where was the mistake with the internet being just, because now you have Elon Musk, you have Andrew Tate, you have Dana White, you have Joe Rogan. There is a massive spread on information, and it seems like it is not stoppable. They try to ban everybody. They got everybody off YouTube, and Instagram is cleaned out, right? Even you get censored as much as they possibly can. But it seems to be like there is so much need. When I go on Rumble and I watch like a Andrew Tate podcast, there's like 1 million people watching. Or if I go and watch like on Instagram, when they're not on Instagram, they just go to Rumble. When they're banned, they just go to Twitter. So there's massive numbers.
Russell Brand is doing really good too.
Yeah. So there's a massive need to break out of the matrix. There's so much men that do not want to confine. And
that's correct.
Do not want to bend down to the system. Do not want to get another shot. Do not want to get another pandemic.
That's right.
So
they don't want to wear the mask. They don't want to put up with the bullshit. They don't want to feel like shit. They want to be strong. Right?
That's why I think it's the best time ever right now, because there's this massive spread on information.
Yeah.
And it seems like they can't control it.
That's correct. Well, it's the
yin and yang.
It's the yin and yang, absolutely. And we're so far into the dark. Well, children and my kids' age, they're turning to religion, and they're being good kids now. And because of the statistics about hookup culture, and everyone was on OnlyFans and stuff like that, it's gone the other way now, and people don't want that. And I'm teaching my kids flat out sex is powerful and you're going to be horny and you're going to want it or whatever. I get them sexual kung fu teachers as counselors they can talk to. My daughter doesn't talk too much about that, but at least they have someone to talk to. And so that you're empowered. And I said, you have grandchildren? No problem. I want grandchildren. I'll take care of them. I don't care if you're 16 or whatever. But the thing is, if you have sex with someone, you make sure that you want to be with them for the raising of the child. Otherwise, don't mess around. It's a responsibility. And I say it in many and various different ways, not to make it bad. Sex powerful. Sex is great. Feels amazing. But it comes with a huge responsibility. You can get a disease and die, or you can also have children, and there's your life. There's no dancing, hockey, or anything else like that. It's you're going to take care of the child. And so I just let them know it's clear. And I talked to them straight because I wasn't taught the birds and the bees about my parents. And so I got them Taoist teachers that are very well versed in sexual kung fu and the inner arts for your creative forces, your genitalia. And so my daughter just got her period. She's 12 years old. And she started growing boobs. And I'm always doing little karate chops with them. She's, Dad, my boobs. And I'm like, okay, I'm a boy. I never had boobs, but I respect that. And okay, I understand. So I'm a little more calm with her. But she still likes to wrestle and stuff. And so, but I get them the tutelage that they need so there's no mystery. And then I talk to them. My daughter's doing ballet and she's like, I got fat thighs. Well, that's body dysmorphia. And I was a model and the women get pushed around and they start getting crazy and neurotic. And you want to do ballet and get on point and ruin your body and then get, neurotic with all that. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. You can do ballet to a point, but I'm not sending you to Russia so they can chuck chairs at you so you can be marginally good or make it or not make it or be dysfunctional from there. Let's pull it all out on the table, right? Instead of getting into body dysmorphia right away. They're not allowed on TikTok. They're not allowed on Instagram, right? The Silicon Valley executives, they don't let their children on the iPads. I don't let my children on them, right? They're military grade weapons, right? And they're programmable, and the mind stores information in images. And the corporations know this because they hire the best neuroscientists, child psychologists to climb inside the brain and brand them. So you're asking about the families again. I mean, word around the campfire is that these guys are all into devil worshiping and drinking blood of children and stuff like that. I don't know that to be absolute fact. I haven't seen it, right? But it sounds pretty accurate. How else is all this psychotic, sinister stuff going on, right? I mean, poisoning the food, and we already know that child trafficking is off the hook, and child sex slave with the Sound of Freedom and Tim Ballard and all his work, and all the kids coming across the border, and what happened in Haiti with the Clinton Foundation. And I mean, we've heard these stories, so that makes sense that these psychotic, sociopaths, psychopaths are doing this and keeping it in place. But the good news is the pendulum swings both ways, and we are awakening, and all the ancient prophecies talk about this time, and we are the people we've been waiting for. We are the miracle. Look in the fucking mirror, people, right? You are the sound of reason that we're all looking for. You are the solution. You are the miracle. The power in the human being is extremely powerful. The Buddha had a story, Ashoka the Great, he had a garland of fingers. He said he was going to kill 1,000 people. And I think on the 1,000th person, he came across the Buddha, and the Buddha taught him meditation. And he went from Ashoka the Cruel to Ashoka the Great. And so after that, he was a very rich man and a conqueror. And he had a garland of fingers around all the people that he had killed, and he wore it around his neck. And people feared him. Came across the Buddha. The Buddha taught him meditation and helped him wake up. He went from Ashoka the Cruel to Ashoka the Great. He built Buddhist centers and meditation centers all around the world before he died. And he prophesied that the teachings of the Buddha would be resurrected 2,500 years later. And I got my teaching from somebody in that lineage. In about 1969, he started, and that was 2,500 years after the Buddha had died. And so people can change in a blink of an eye. Humanity can change in a blink of an eye. And you saw during lockdowns how healthy the city of Los Angeles got. the smog went away. Nobody was driving their cars. This place was pristine in just weeks. Look at what happens. Look at what happens when it rains. The world is refreshed after a big fire. There was fires up in the National Forest in Montana there for a while. Big 100-year fire came through there and wrecked everything. And within years, just replenished, just all grew back. And so the power of the human spirit is just like the concrete, the shoot of grass poking through the concrete. It will literally break the concrete, the little shoot of grass. And so that is the power of the human being, and we're awakening, and it's unstoppable, and it's all been written in history as well.
Man, and the other side is this is purely sinister and satanic, or
Sure, maybe, whatever,
Like,
but they're doing their job to wake us up.
but how do these people operate? Like when I meet the doctor, when I meet my doctor, I see that he lives in denial and he just eats the news, he eats the propaganda, and he just completely brainwashed and robot mode, like 100%. But the people behind it that plan these things out, that are very aware of the steps they're taking, when they know where they're taking the batteries from my iPhone, like who digs them out of the ground in Africa, right? They know what they're doing. How do they sleep at night? They're just they worship the devil, or how do you cope? Like how are we different? Like how do I want good for my family, for everybody else, for the world? Why are we different wired, and why do we not just want to make profit?
Well, I think that's where, to me, for it to make reason and logical sense, I would go back to the statistics. About 6% of the population has a propensity towards being a psychopath.
So these people in these positions are absolute. And also, how does nobody break? They just get them killed? Or like, what if I'm born into these families that set everything up and I don't want to be a part of this? Like, I'm going to be the one ruining my family or like what they stand for. I see what they're doing, and I just disagree in the evil and like this pain they bring into this world. Like these oil families, right? Nobody knows if they actually sit down in a room and they all have suits and like plan this out, or if they operate by their own. But they definitely plan this out, and there's got to be like new people, or like they have family, they have kids, and they have to step into this position to keep this whole thing going.
Yeah, I mean, word around the campfire is they abuse them when they're young, so it's built into their nervous system.
Because as a kid, you're so absorbent,
open.
Yeah,
and if you get abused like that, you turn a certain mechanism off, and then you just operate the best you can. I think it was seen, like even with George Bush Jr. And I heard those stories back then that he was just abused and programmed. I don't know because I'm not there behind those closed doors. But if you want to look into secret societies, you can look into Bohemian Grove and the Bilderbergs meetings. So there are meetings with big people behind closed doors. The Bilderbergs have heads of state, which I do believe the Logan Act, it's an act of treason. If it's not public, this meeting is not public, yet you're coming as an official for the United States of America, whether that's Congress or, corporations are private, so people can go there. But just look at the list of Bilderbergs, study the Bilderbergs meetings in the Bohemian Grove up north of San Francisco. Also, there's a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island in 1913. Was it Warburg, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller? They all got together and they talked about instituting the Federal Reserve for the United States of America. And then World War I, I think, had components of that. Like if people weren't going to play the game, then the world went to war. I do believe, look into the history of the Nazis. Like who funded Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party? Where did they get the oil? Where did they get the motors for the Sherman tanks? Henry Ford. It's like all of our corporations, they were in bed with these other entities. They're my understanding is the Rothschilds have funded both sides of the war since Napoleon, right? There's destabilization,
like ISIS.
Yeah, and go back and watch Hotel Rwanda. There was two factions of that country, and they gave them both machetes, and they were fighting in the street, chopping each other's heads off. And then destabilization. Okay, well, we just need the natural resources. You guys carry on, right? And it's really sad to see that happen. And I don't know whether they look at it and like death is a part of life, and we live in a dualistic paradox, and yin and yang, and somebody's got to be the evil guy. And so I'm going to be the evil guy this time. I don't know. I don't know how that operates because I can't lie, cheat, and steal. That's just my energetic makeup. I don't know what it would be like if I had a gun to my head, and that type of threat where I could, kill this child, I have a gun to your head, or rape this child. I don't know what that's like. I don't know if that's what happens in these secret societies, but it makes sense. And it makes sense if you look at child pedophilia and you start to look in, like Joe Biden, they've got all those clips where he's touching the children at some kind of congressional meeting or celebration for some congressman or something. And he's touching the children and being extremely fucking creepy. And then, we forget that Julian Assange had, was it 36,000 emails from Hillary Clinton? Was it the WikiLeaks? And then we had Edward Snowden. So WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden. WikiLeaks, I believe, uncovered all the nefarious activities and the drone strikes from the Obama administration, and also Benghazi and the Hillary Clinton emails from Benghazi. And of course, that got buried with all the propaganda, but there's a lot of truth in there. And part of the truth was, Seth Rich also was part of the DNC, and then he woke up during trying to get Hillary Clinton nominated for the Democratic National Convention. So you've got the Clintons, and then Seth Rich worked for the Democratic National Committee, and then he saw nefarious activities, and he released a bunch of information, and then he was murdered. And they didn't. It was a robbery in Washington D.C., but they didn't take his wallet or his Rolex, right? And so, look into the murder of Seth Rich and what he released, and then what happened in Benghazi. And so why did we leave our servicemen there, and what did they call it? That's collateral damage in war. She was very callous towards that. And then Benghazi was Libya. And what did we do to Libya? And what was that about? Was that about oil, geopolitical strategic positions for the military? What's going on in Ukraine right now? Who funded that? And what is Ukraine? And what is the military strategic point of it? And what does that land grow, or what are the natural resources of that land? And then these backhanded deals with Ukraine. And then why does NATO want to be involved? And what is that all about? Is it about freedom? Because I don't see that really in the world. You go to some of these places and it's not about freedom. It's about control. And then they use economic power to control people. But what were we talking about? I think, so the Bilderbergs.
Oh, I asked if they're like truly satanic.
The thing is I don't know.
But you said about the psychopath demographic.
Yeah, and I was also talking about like who funded Hitler in World War II. Like look into that. Where did the oil come from?
Did you see that they never found his corpse? And for 40 years they pretended that a female corpse was Hitler. Just saw this clip on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I've looked into.
They never found his corpse. There is no corpse.
Yeah,
and the documents are all banned and tried to rip off, and like there's no information.
And you look into false flags. So he burned the Reichstag down, right, in 1933 to gain power. The Nazis actually burned the Reichstag down and blamed it on somebody else. So it was one of the original false flags. And look into Operation Paperclip. And most of the Nazis ended up also look into General Byrd and going down to Antarctica. Like, what's that all about? And General Byrd went down there to follow the Nazis because a whole bunch of Nazis went down there and posted up camp down there. And like, what's going on in Antarctica, and why can't we go down there? And, these are all questions. I mean, I don't spend my every waking hour of it, but there's definitely stuff that goes, why do I have to spend so much money on organic food? And why do they put these chemicals and why are all my clients with tons of money so fucking sick? And people my age are getting cancer and like, they look like shit and they're aging and they're dying at my age. People I went to high school with, and they're obese and they've got all these problems. Like, why are the chemicals in the food? So these are the type of questions that I ask. And then I don't spend every waking hour looking at, who's the guys that are doing this. But enough information trickles through. So you got Anthony Weiner's laptop. His wife was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. They worked together forever, and they have a file called Frazzle Drip, which is supposed to be, it made the biggest New York City cops and homicide and stuff, brought them to their knees and puked and quit suicide for watching that file. And then so you got Anthony Weiner's laptop, then you got Hunter Biden's laptop. And you've got the WikiLeaks.
Barely reported on the news.
Yeah. And then you got WikiLeaks. So Julian Assange, he's been, in exile. I don't know what happened to him. Is he in United States custody? I'm not sure. But then you got Edward Snowden, and we're spying on people. And the Constitution says we have the right to privacy. And then there's right to medical privacy. And then all of a sudden, show me the papers. Where's your vaccine? Where's your mask? Right? Well, I don't have to wear one because it's detrimental to my health, according to my doctor, which just so happens to be me. And then you present the store clerk with the HIPAA, and they don't care. Right? The HIPAA laws is to protect our privacy for medical. Right? You don't discriminate against a crippled person. Like, you can't come in here. You can't buy your food. You're crippled. Right? Well, I'm crippled too. I can't wear a mask. It's going to affect my health. Right? And you can't discriminate against me. And so, and that goes in with the layering of propaganda and who you listen to, and you sit down, shut up, comply, and consume. And that's all trained from the industrial age school system. I'm great because I got kicked out of every school that I ever went to. My mentor is a 9th grade dropout. Most people that got kicked out of school, they really made more or they have the potential to make more with their life. I don't like listening to authority, and I studied enough. I had some college, and I did get a high school degree, even though I got that when I was sitting in juvenile hall, and I just educated myself. I read Dostoevsky and other literature and used my brains however I wanted to, and I got enough credits, and I graduated high school, and then I went on to college. But I educated myself with what I wanted to get educated with. I didn't get indoctrinated. And then I realized, oh my God, that was a pretty big waste of time, and traveled to Milan and Paris and Tokyo. And that was the best education, traveling, right? Seeing other cultures and networking with other people. That's the best education. And I became a master networker, which is incredible for business. You want to make more money, shake more hands, right? And so, get to know more people. That's why I like social media, because it's exponentiated. You can just meet more people online. Anyways, I
so
think
where do you go for information? Like, where do you get real information, like news or even like medical things? Like, because like when you sometimes it also goes like just too far. Where
can you save that question? Let me go to the bathroom.
Yeah, we are back. The thing is, the more I listen to you and everybody that speaks the truth and fights the matrix, I feel like I can't trust anybody anymore. And I want to know, I've been a slave for so long, and I've been mushed in my brain and fogged up for so long that everybody that is listening, I want to give them a chance to get real information. So I want to know where you get real information.
Right. So ultimately, the information that I get is, I've trained myself to just ride on my intuition, the voice of God that's inside of me. I practice meditation. I know how the mind works, and there's programming everywhere. There's frequencies. The technology that they have to pump out of the 5G, the cell phone towers, they can change your mind, right? The voice of God technology exists. You can go on the DARPA website and find out about that. Directed energy weapons, lasers. They have all this technology, seeding the clouds. So we're bombarded with these frequencies, all the time. And the natural environment heals everything. So I jump in an ice bath, cold body of water, wild water, the creek in Sedona, and the ocean. It always has the ability to cleanse you, right? Tobacco is a powerful plant as well. It cuts the shit, gets rid of negative entities, and really clears the mind. It can, especially the hape, the South American snuff, goes up the nose. They use other rainforest plants. So there's ancient shamanic tools to really get us out of our head and into our body. Having children will do that too, right? The birth of a child is like, fucking wow, man. And so having a good meal, fasting, right? To go without is to go within. And all the answers are inside. We're self-healing, all-knowing beings, ultimately. We have the power of God inside of us. So intuition, meditation helps. Then getting around others that have what I want. So I studied with the great Paul Chek, and the reason Paul Chek is so awesome is because people can talk about health and fitness forever, but he's got inventions, he's developed systems. He's got a caliper that measures the clavicle and the cervical joints. And, aging is when, you're hunched over and gravity's pulling you down. So he has the ability to, understand how to keep us upright, how the gut microbiome works, how the nerve plexus, the signal comes out of the brain to the gut, and then our extremities fire outside of there. That's how we punch, block, kick, throw footballs, baseballs. So he's one of the top sports fitness guys in the world. He's trained the world's trainers, and he's rehabbed some of the biggest athletes on the planet, including Danny Way from a broken neck in '94. The movie Waiting for Lightning goes over that. Laird Hamilton did the voiceover for that. He helped Laird with his hip replacement. And again, an off spin of that, he helped Rick Rubin lose a ton of weight. And then I think Rick is also a client of Paul Chek's now. And so Ryan Hughes, spinal cord injuries from motocross. Robbie Madison, who surfed Chopu, the 100-foot wave in Indonesia, I do believe. He surfed it with his motorcycle. Did you ever see that movie? Yeah, he surfs a 100-foot wave with his motorcycle. Robbie Madison, he's a friend of mine. He's amazing. So Robbie Madison was in the X Games in 2012, and a motorcycle flipped over and busted his rib. The doctors sent him home to die, basically. They said, you'll never ride a motorcycle again. His rib was millimeters from his aorta. And if he moved, they said it was going to puncture and you'd just be dead. And so Paul Chek rehabbed him from that. And since then, he's jumped Caesar's Palace. He surfed Chopu with his motorcycle. So Paul Chek has rehabbed more medically retired athletes to the tune of multi-million-dollar extended careers than anyone on the face of the planet. And so I want to study with a guy like that. Okay, what does he know? Oh, he's a ninth grade dropout. And then he's, he worked. He did logging. He raced cars, motocross. He was a boxer, elite boxer. I want to study with this man. He brought the Swiss balls. He developed and coined the term core function, and he can deadlift 450 pounds. When I met him in his 50s, and now he can still do that in his 60s. So I want to learn from this human being. And where did he get a lot of his information? Well, he definitely did a lot of psychedelic research, and he also read thousands of books, thousands. He's a literal walking encyclopedia. And he's living that encyclopedia, because it's not enough to get an idea or someone else's idea that worked for them. If you can't recreate it in your body, it has no ballast in reality. So throw those ideas away, right? It's only what you can live, right? Mind is an embodied process. And so ultimately, we are all mind. Your body is a representation of your mind. And so I want to learn and study with those people. My meditation teacher was S.N. Goenka. I've studied with indigenous tribes, and everyone's got their dark side and everyone's got their bullshit, right? Because we're all human beings and we're yin-yang dualistic paradox, walking paradoxes. And so, but I want to study with people that have at least some mastery in one area. And what I like to say is most health coaches aren't fit. Most fit people aren't healthy. And so, because they're taking all the pre-workouts and all the garbage, right? And they got zits all over their back and stuff like that. And so, and then most spiritual people aren't healthy or fit. So I want the trifecta. I want it all, right? And so that's who I want to study with. Somebody that's cognizant, they're good in business, they've got a good, strong body, and they're clear, they know how to be healthy. I want it all, right? And so, but I did study with my meditation teacher. He wasn't the most fit brother out there. And but he taught me some really good stuff. And so I sit with myself. I take the plant teachers into my body as well. The ayahuasca, I just recently did ibogaine, very powerful for opioid addiction. I did it for spiritual exploration. And then I watch both sides. So I get the Matrix news, and then I get the meditation and the truth. And then I sit with, I hear the Alex Joneses or I don't know if Andrew Tate really has secret information, but he illuminates a lot. So I really like Andrew Tate. There's something I really like about him. And so, and I study from everyone. I do the Bruce Lee, right? Study from everyone. Take what's useful, discard the rest, make it your own, And so, and then I sit with it. And I sent my children to Waldorf school. They teach you how to think, not what to think. So you take the positive and the negative, and you take it in. You go, okay. And I love when people challenge my ideas, because I have some pretty powerful ideas of changing the world. And unless you challenge them, they can't grow. And so I do believe we can ground in free energy. Challenge me all day long. Wright brothers wanted to fly like an eagle. Everybody said they were crazy. Fucking let's go at it. Steve Jobs is no engineer. He was no fucking design guy. He's an idea man, right? And so, so if the mainstream media is all jacked up with commerce, like I explained earlier, then basically anything that they're saying, especially now, anything that they're saying, basically the opposite is the truth. That's a good guide, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, I watched Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather, the nightly news with Walter Cronkite. You want to believe that authority figure, like, wow, that's happening. We're going to war with these people. Libya's causing problems, like in the 80s and stuff like that. Reagan was president and stuff. And you're thinking, wow, what's going on? And then years later, I'm like, oh, oil powers everything. And we need to get that out of the ground. Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And John Perkins worked for the World Bank, right? He ended up drinking the ayahuasca as well. But John Perkins wrote the book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It's a worthy read for a young man that wants to understand the world that they live in, right? How does the world work? Read that book. Get a better understanding. How does the money system work? We'll read, the Creature from Jekyll Island. And then find 5 other books talking about it differently, right? You look at all these economists. They're all guessing. Right? Everything's made up. I teach Qigong. I teach rudimentary Qigong, and I have to work through my own arthritis. And people want to know what style or this and that. Hey, some fucking Chinese guy in the paddy fields a long time ago figured it out, and he made it up. So if you do some rhythm and flow and get your stuff moving back and forth and get some rhythm and flow and a funky move for yourself, and you can teach that, great. What's the difference? You're just getting the chi and the energy moving. I'm sure there's some proper forms that can build your chi more. The fact of the matter is somebody else figured it out, and you can give yourself permission to figure it out too. And so, so that's how I disseminate information. I get the bad, I get the good, and then I check in with my intuition. How does that vibrate and reside with me? And then I move forward. And then if you make a mistake and you fall down, which I've made plenty, and I continue to do so, you fail your way to success. Anybody in success will tell you that. And don't be afraid to fail. And you can't do it wrong, because we're all human beings growing through it. So, and we're walking paradoxes. So we're not necessarily hypocrites. We get more information and we change our minds. So you're evolving and you're growing. I think people need to be good to themselves because it's okay to make mistakes and not know. And did I answer that question?
For sure.
I take in the information, I balance it out, hear the opposite, and then eventually it's my intuition. So let's just take vaccines, for example. My child was coming. Okay, some people say it's autism, and then oh no, that's a conspiracy theory, and the medical establishment says no, they're good, and everybody needs them, and you got to have them to get into school. And no, well, the Constitution says no, you don't have to have them. You have religious rights, and if you don't believe in that, then my religion is health, right? Then no, I don't, and that's my God-given right to forced medical procedures are against the Nuremberg Code after World War II and the Nazis, supposedly. So okay, all right. So that's the politics and the laws and everything. Okay, let's look into this because polio, right? It saved a bunch of people from polio. All right. So is that true? Well, there's a whole faction of people said that the polio was coming from DDT and these other pesticides in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and these were causing birth defects in people. And so was it polio? Because they outlawed DDT in the 50s because eventually it was killing off the American eagle, and that's the national bird. And so we took DDT off the market. But what do we do with DDT? Oh, we export it to Vietnam and South America because, it kills mosquitoes, right? And so we banned it here. Okay, all right. So, all right, that's the chemical companies. All right, let's go back to vaccines. Are they good or bad? And they cause autism. Okay, since the 1986 Act, exonerating vaccine companies from any liability of their product, we've had a rise in autism. It went from 1 in like 100,000 or 1 in a million in the early 1900s to it's going towards 1 in 17 now. I don't know what the exact statistic is, but one out of 20 kids are going to have autism now. And what does that do to the family? Oh, it's a huge burden, and you've got to hire people, and you got to stay home with them, and the kid is uncontrollable. And okay, all right, so that's a potential risk. Oh, but that's conspiracy theory. All right, okay, it's conspiracy theory. Okay, what are the ingredients? All right, now we got Google too, all right? Thimerosal, aluminum. What aluminum is toxic for the human body, and it's but that doesn't cause autism. That's a conspiracy theory. Okay.
So why is it in there though?
It's an adjuvant. It's a preservative, and so okay, preservative. All right, and then you got porcine viruses and monkey brains and bovine viruses. Okay, well, what if you're Jewish and you don't eat pork? Are you going to inject a pork virus into your child's body? Well, no. Let's go back to the religion. I'm going to opt out of this one because I have freedom of religion. That's the First Amendment, and so but that's SB 276 and SB 277 in the state of California is ixnaying on your rights, and you still have to prove it, and religious exemptions are no longer acceptable. Okay, so that's happening. All right, you know what? This is too much of a stress. How about we didn't have vaccines before, and I trust in God and God's immune system. Let's just say no. How about no? We'll just not go there. Right? I don't want the autism. And that's how I made my decision.
Where do you draw the line? Do you go to the dentist?
Yeah, I have a holistic dentist that understands everything I talk about and actually teaches me boatloads of information. Weston A. Price Foundation, and he sends his kids to Waldorf, and I chewed sugar and had root canals and amalgam in my mouth, and I spent 40 G's with him in the last, maybe even more now. And you know what? I went from having shitty teeth and a fucked up microbiome and in my mouth, all the bacteria and stuff, to 25 years I've been pretty stable. I like Dr. Raymond Silkman. He's no cheap date, but he's my guy. And that's actually why I'm here right now, because I come back and see him in Los Angeles. And so so I went from bubble yum and junk food and getting rotten teeth and eating the stuff. If you've read Weston A. Price's book on dentistry, I ruined my teeth, and I had all sorts of problems and root canals and stuff, and got all the amalgam out. My health got considerably better, and my teeth have been stable for 25 years. So, and I was headed towards dentures in my late 30s. So,
And then what about?
and teeth, once the teeth go, mastication is in the hierarchy of needs. And so once you lose your teeth, death is not far around the corner.
So do you trust any doctors? Why?
Here's the thing
Why
about
is there
doctors.
not like why is my doctor telling me to not go in the sun? I challenge my doctors, and they're like, they don't have time anyways. But every time I challenge a doctor, they get very upset, and it becomes a whole, like they're telling me this, and I'm telling them why, and they can't really, they're trying to get out of the room, and it's like, why is my doctor always like never fit? Why does he look like shit? Right? Why can he not, can I not have a fit, healthy doctor? Like, where are these doctors? Are there no, like, or like, how can I be around people like you? Like, or like, where can I live where I can like go to the farm, get my food, go to a doctor that I trust, go to a dentist that is gonna not tell me lies, and like, and even have an education system where I know they're not gonna just be programmed as slaves. They're gonna actually learn something, because my school in LA, they won't even let me put my school in it, my kid in it, if it's not fully 50 shots vaccinated.
Yeah. I'm going to hook you up with Paul Chek.
So where do you go? Where do you live?
Paul Chek.
Where do you live?
Chek Institute. I live.
Why do you live in Arizona?
I left because I was ready to get into fistfights every single day with fucking.
That's how I feel.
Grown men trying to tell me to put on a mask. Go fuck yourself, motherfucker. Square off, look them right in the eyes. Go fuck yourself. Make me put on a mask. I didn't put up with it. I left June, and I went to Arizona. Somebody's like, oh, yeah, Sedona, you'd be great at Sedona. And I went out there, and I love Sedona, and so beautiful. And I was like, I was shooting a lot of content. I was like, this will be great. Yeah, I'm going to Sedona. And the houses were like totally affordable. What I was getting for a box in LA, I got a mansion in Sedona. I was like, yeah. And so I just moved out to Sedona mainly because it was my children. I could handle myself if I'm a single man in Los Angeles, working out at Muscle Beach, going to Gold's. Well, they banned me at Gold's too. I've been going to Gold's for 25 years. And it's just like, you guys are going to turn into Nazis? This is a health facility. You guys are going to play that game? That's a mental health disorder. No, I don't need a mask. Masks don't fucking work anyways. There's tons of research on that. The propaganda will negate what I'm saying. But the fact of the matter is try and, clean your glasses and blow through, something like that. The glasses still get fogged up and you can clean them, right? Even blowing through that. But if I have this, all of a sudden, this is solving a problem? No, it's not. It's what it's doing is it's muzzling people. It's putting the Jewish star on people, And it's, but no, I don't want to play that game. That game's fucking bullshit. I don't like that game. Fuck you. And so it wasn't so much about me because I can hold my own ground. But I also didn't want to get arrested, right? And I have kids at the time. So, and then I'm paying for private school, and my children are in a Waldorf school, and there's no media. There's zero media allowed at the school, right? And the kids aren't even supposed to watch it out of school, because then they're going to talk about movies and all this programming and bullshit, and you don't listen to music, and it's all this programming. So Waldorf just has a zero media policy, and I love that because the proof's in the pudding. My children are awake. They're alive. They walk up to you and they look you straight in the eye, and they're like, what about you, buddy? What's going on over there? And then you ask them a question, and they give you an adult answer, right? And my kids are amazing. And so I'm like, all right, this Waldorf stuff works. Oh, all right, we're in lockdown, and now they got to be on Zoom and in front of a video screen for 6 hours. They went from zero media to 6 hours a day. And then, of course, they find themselves, onto video games. And my daughter was with some other problem child, and at 10 years old, she was exposed to pornography. Right? There you go. And the Waldorf school in Sedona called me, and I go, you guys are supposed to hold up a zero media policy. I don't want to fucking hear this because I have a zero media policy, but you don't enforce it. And the other mothers and anyways, so my daughter found her way to pornography at 10, so it exists. It's there, right? And so I moved my children to Arizona, and we visited the Waldorf school there. They were outdoors playing, no mask. Boom, we're in. So we moved there. And within a couple months, a lot of things started to change there. And it was actually very weird because the children got evicted from a Sedona Unified School District building. And I grew up in the States my whole life. And I'm like, this is a rural town in the country. Don't they get together and do like a bake sale if the kids lose their school? Like, don't everybody rally to get them a new building? And why do they actually have to move out of a city-owned building if the school's already successful? And there's some backhanded real estate deals. I think the building is not used to this day, 2 years later. And so there's some weird politics and bullshit going on. How do you pull kids out of a school? 75 children in a school. So anyways, that was the main reason why I got out of California, was to get my children into a functioning school.
That's what I want to do right now.
Yep.
I love California. I'm from Austria, rains all day, and I loved it here. I came here on vacation. I fell in love. Everything, the sun, the light.
Climate.
The climate.
Amazing. The saltwater air.
There's no excuses. You got to get done every day. Like there's no, it's a bad day. It's every day you go.
Yeah.
And there was something about it. Like there was some energy.
California's been amazing forever. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger came here, and you've got the Beach Boys. There's just the California culture. You know, it really was a big part of American culture, and everything changed in a blink of an eye. It was like communism just sprouted up.
And now I feel like I got to get out, especially for my family.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But like,
you're not the only one.
I'm wondering if I like, if I go to, I find like Texas attractive. Like,
pretty humid there, and it is attractive.
Not from the weather side, more politically, or even leave the country at all. But I love America, so I don't know what to do. So what do you do? Do you go to Dubai? Do you go to Europe? Because Europe's pretty fucked up too.
Yep, Australia got nailed. New Zealand got nailed.
Yeah.
We are the last vestiges of freedom. Look what they did to Canada.
Exactly.
Trudeau's a traitor.
Look at Australia.
Australia's been the breeding grounds for globalists for a long time. Paul Chek talks about, because he used to teach a lot there in New Zealand, all the Swiss ball stuff, and he's got a big institute down there as well. So he talks about cell phones being there before they were even in the States, and everybody was on them. So it's breeding grounds for new technology and new ideas. And it's been that way for a long time. And they got locked down. And remember, they had the fires the year before the lockdowns too, right? So they're just trying to test and see what human beings will take before they revolt.
I know, but if you don't have guns, you can very easily set laws, and there won't be any.
What are they going to do?
What are they going to do?
Yep. And so
it might be a breeding ground, but like, what are they going to do? You know?
And that's really where the new warfare is. It's on the propaganda. It's on the media. It's on the mind control. And again, study the Nazis. What were they doing? What was MK Ultra? What happened with Operation Paperclip? And we brought their scientists over here. They were into mind control, and they were into trying to change the biology through injections. They were trying to change the kids' eye colors and stuff. They're testing everything. And so you get the aluminum in the body, and they're seeding the clouds with aluminum, strontium, and barium, and that will uptake into the body to a certain degree. And then you hit it with frequency, and you hit it with propaganda, and you hit it with these vaccines, and you're a robot. You're an NPC, and that's what we see in the world today. After the lockdowns, and I came out here for a visit or two for my dentist and stuff, I definitely saw the difference between the masks and just the politics. Like, people, they almost gave up because it's like you just couldn't compete. When I got kicked out of my health food stores that had been frequenting frequenting for 30 years. And all the homies in there knew me and stuff. And I'm in there every day. And then what, you're going to deny me my health food? And you want me to do something unhealthy, like wear a mask? That's not cool. They knew it wasn't cool. And I brought up all the HIPAA laws and the color of law and the Constitution. They just weren't interested in listening. It's the mind control. So
how do you surround yourself with alphas? Like people like you? Like I think it's very hard as a man to be all by yourself. You know, sometimes you need like other wolves, you need a pack, you need like a supportive system. I started this podcast to find people like you because sometimes it's just me and my wife, and she's very easily manipulated. I can easily manipulate her into either taking a booster or refusing a booster. It is very emotional argument. It's not very rational.
That's why I have my beautiful 12-year-old daughter right by my fucking side, right? Just learn from me and learn to stand up from yourself, because you are intelligent, you are beautiful, you're athletic, you have a huge responsibility, and you are a nice person at your heart, and you will be manipulated. Don't fuck around.
But even grown women easily manipulated, and men don't stand up for their women anymore. They don't keep them in check. They don't watch out anymore. It is now in our society, it is if you watch over your woman and you care about your loved one, you're an abuser and a control freak, and you are
narcissist.
You're a narcissist, and it's the
Trump supporter.
Yeah, no, and you control your woman, and she needs to be completely independent, 100%, which means 100% manipulated by the media,
by the systems.
Because when the media tells her grandma's gonna die or your kid needs this to survive, she will do that.
Yep.
Right away.
Yep. Easily manipulated. And
so is there no like...
They get us by sex and fear. They play us on our hormones. Sex always sells. That's not going away ever. That's why I like social media, because you can still be sexy and people are going to watch, right? They're going to watch. And then once they come in, I'll give them some truth, right?
You think it helps to look so good?
Fuck yeah. I mean, I'm a Versace model, right? 4 times over. Work with the supermodels, the original ones. I use all the gifts the creator gave me. It's not my ego, and I'm sure people can make a fucking TikTok click and say, Troy Casey's fucking toxic masculinity, narcissist, and fucking Trump supporter, he fucking hates women and blah, 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 and this is him, and he's an egotist. Go ahead. But the fact of the matter is, I have taken care of the gifts that the creator gave me, and I'm here to use them for good. And I know that sex sells, and I read the propaganda book, and I know the playbook, right? It's the Kardashian playbook, Gucci Mane playbook. I like all that shit, right? That's popular culture. Now that I got your attention, let's talk about what's in your heart, what you know in your heart of hearts. And then I'm going to turn you on from there.
That's why I like TikTok.
Yeah.
Because I got people's attention.
Yeah.
You know, I've been grinding social media for like 10 years, but with TikTok, everything changed. Suddenly I have attention on me. Now I have to do good because you have people watching. You have a responsibility.
Yep.
Not only over your wife, also over everybody you connect with or everybody that listens to you.
Yep. Yep.
And how can you be so unresponsible? People are so fucked up, but I am too. When I wake up, I'm sometimes miserable. I feel like I have a fever, and when I cold plunge every morning, I am clear. I feel like I have just reborn. It's all gone, and I am just happy to be alive. I'm happy for my body. I'm happy for standing right in front of my cold plunge. It's like these little things, or when you go into nature, or when you eat something, or you cleanse, or you fast.
Get grounded or go into the sun.
But I want to surround myself with wolves.
Good. Because I'm creating a fucking legion, an army, not of Roman soldiers, but of Roman emperors. I'm not looking for followers. I'm looking for leaders, motherfuckers that know this shit in their heart, right? This is the call of the wild.
And you're only that strong by yourself. Imagine how strong you can be with 50 people with your mindset, how you can elevate each other, how much that fire will burn if you're all standing for one thing. That's why they want to isolate us. That's why they put on the masks to we cannot connect anymore. I cannot find you. I don't know where you are.
Yeah, it's by design. They're there to weaken us. I think, solitary confinement is the biggest threat in prison. And so, because they know that will break you. Loneliness is one of the biggest fears that man fears. And so that's why I do men's work, and we have retreats and stuff, and we go out into nature and camp and eat fucking meat on a stick and do ice baths, and guys love it. And I get the military special forces guys to come out there with me, and guys just fucking love it, and they eat it up. And I have other friends. I've got the Sacred Sons. They're doing good men's work, and I've got was it the Wolf Pack, the K4. My buddy Philip here in Venice, California. He's got a good men's group, and so I think Sean Whalen's doing some good work. Lions Not Sheep, and Ed Milet, and there's a bunch of influencers, older entrepreneurs, fitness guys and stuff. They're doing good work. But you can go down and study with Paul Chek. I want to send you down there. I want you to meet him. He's got courses that he teaches. His instructors teach all his fitness stuff now, but he has a 15-acre facility in Rainbow, California, not far from here. And he teaches Zen in the garden, how to stack giant rocks. It's a killer workout, and it's so Zen because if you drop one, you fucking break your toes, right? And so it's the real deal.
You're fully present.
Oh, totally. It's great, man. I spent 8 hours down there with him doing that type of stuff. And then he just taught scientific back and core conditioning, and he hasn't taught that in years. So I recommend getting on the Chek Institute newsletter, email list. And whatever Paul's teaching, you can actually, so instead of having to go through all his prerequisites before to meet Paul, he's teaching what he wants to teach. He teaches art therapy and mandala drawing to get out of your soul what your legacy is. He does that once a year. He does Zen in the garden multiple times per year. And then a lot of people that hang out with Paul, and he's got 15,000 students worldwide, they're straight up alphas. They know where the good food is. They know how to heal the human body. They've got erect posture. And they know where the naturopaths are and the osteopathic doctors and these types of people. So you can get legitimate, doctors that know their stuff, and they're based in health. They're not based in pharmacological poisons. And so the Chek Institute is an incredible resource. And then of what I'm doing with men as well, the fitandfreelegacy.com. I've got a free mini program of all my curriculum from the book and my courses. We're releasing that this month. And so I've been doing live events and retreats in my Man Clan events for the past 5 years. And so tuning people up, and when I have live events, come out to them. There's other people that I recommend. And so we're working on my back end platform, and we'll be able to communicate more, but definitely Paul Chek and what he's doing. There's Michael Holt. He's in Venice. I'm going to connect you with him as well. He's a Chek practitioner. And you can find Paul Chek's podcast on there. Michael's been interviewed, but Michael Holt has a company called Savage and Saint. So he was a bruiser from Philadelphia, and he would just fucking kick people's ass. And then he learned martial arts, and he got into bodyguarding and being a doorman, but got into too much fights and all that stuff. And he ended up finding meditation. So you want to be able to be hard to kill and dangerous. And then you also want to practice the inner arts, so that you can protect the innocent. And he walks down Venice Beach, and all the crime that's really progressed in the last couple of years since the lockdowns. He walks down there and he takes knives off of people in the middle of fights and stuff like that. He's a fucking badass. Savage and Saint. He's on Instagram, and just a solid motherfucker. He comes from the streets and he's hardcore, but he's a big time meditator, and he's all about the balance of the inner and the outer. And he's a great guy. I'll connect you with my buddy Philip. He's in Venice Beach as well. He's got the Wolf Pack group. And there's some good guys out there, and this is a clarion call to everyone out there. It's time to band up, create the legion, the army. I have an army of wellness warriors, both men and women, and then I've got an army of men, the legion, the legacy motherfuckers. And we know what we want. We're clear on our legacy, and we're here to claim it, right? Stand and be counted. Death is a part of life. Memento mori. Face that shit, right? Be happy that you're going to die, and then go out and live a life worth living. make your mark on life, right? That's everything that I'm about. But if we're not clear on our legacy, then we can't build a fitness routine, a health routine around it. We can't free our mind because we don't know where the fuck we're going. And then we're easily manipulated, like you said. No, my heart of heart, I'm here to raise human consciousness and change all systems. Oh, you start talking about the systems that are already existing and real estate and the money and the this and the that. Well, I don't believe in that. Insurance, you got to have insurance. You got to see a doctor. And I don't believe in that. That's not my path. I'm here. I'm 57 years old. I haven't been to a doctor in like 40 years. I might have seen one here or there, but I don't have a general practitioner doctor. I don't have someone I see. And so,
And you also don't have insurance?
nope. I mean, I have it for the kids. My son's playing hockey and stuff like that. But like my dentist, that's out of pocket, straight cash. And so, yeah, I don't need it. You know, I don't get into accidents on my bicycles and stuff. That's my mindset, right? I don't need it. I'm strong. And I got black mold poisoning. I got walking pneumonia in 2012, and I was living in a house that had mold. And I've had autoimmune issues and weirdo arthritis and neurological issues. I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to fast, drink some ayahuasca that cleans out the liver. I'm going to do liver flushes, colon cleanses. Been juicing for 33 years. The father of modern day medicine, Hippocrates, said, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. And you got to take the Hippocratic Oath if you're a doctor. Yet you only spend 2 days to 2 weeks studying nutrition. How the fuck is that? The brother said that food's your medicine. And food includes herbs. What did we hunt and gather? We hunted big game, grass-fed ruminants, little stuff too. We ate squirrels and rabbits. But the bottom line is we gathered roots, barks, berries, herbs, grasses, whatever was edible. Lamb's quarter used to grow wild. You just eat it. You don't need a huge, big salad. It's micronutrition. You need the essence, the biophotonic light, the energy from the light converted into energy in a plant. You chuck that down your neck. You're after the light. You're after the minerals and the light. The minerals make you conductive, right? You need the minerals in the body, indium, iridium, gold, platinum. These things come from mineral-rich soil. And then that makes you electric and easily conducted, right? And that's where the vitality and the energy comes from, right? When we're mineralized. We don't necessarily just need the water. We need the crystalline structure of that water with the minerals. And so that comes from the nutrition, get it from coconut water, superfoods, fresh squeezed juice, right? And this makes you alive and electric. You want to pre-workout, get off the caffeine, start drinking beet juice, right? Beet juice, and ashwagandha, and rhodiola, and maca. Maca will make your dick hard.
You wanted to talk about the no fab?
Yeah, I think, you were talking about what's weakening men. Mm-hmm. Jerk off a few times a day. That's going to deplete your most powerful energy. And
especially to a screen.
Yeah, to a screen. And definitely, and I grew up with pornography. I'm not addicted. I only spend 90 seconds on it. No, but I grew up with that. I grew up with the magazines. How exciting. My fucking dick's all fucking hard. What do you do with this? It was the first time I masturbated. I was like, it just fucking blew up. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck was that? And I was looking at the magazines. So my mind is entrained with that. And then now you add to it pornography. It's like, so to break free from that, I had to study and understand it, so much better. And I practiced semen retention and, these are yoga practices, sexual kung fu Taoist practices. It's not perfectionism. It's a practice, and the pendulum swings both ways. And so I've been celibate for 2 years, right? Because the world's got pretty weird. I got divorced, and I thought it was a free lunch, and I was like, Tinder and Bumble, wow. And spiritually, I've always heard, you take on the energy and the emotional body of that person. And I'm like, yeah. But when you're young and a Versace model and you're out fucking chicks and doing drugs, you're like, fuck it. I don't care, But now that I'm older and I got divorced when I was 50, and I was like, oh, Tinder and Bumble.
Why did you get divorced?
A lot of that had to do with money, and we had a mold house, and that put a lot of stress in the body, in the family. And then just kind of fighting over money. I had a herbal business from the Amazon, and that went down. When we met, I was doing national commercials, and I had a few of those running, and then that dried up, and then we had the mold house, and then we had to move, and we moved 15 times with a young family. So a lot of the houses in Santa Monica have mold in them, but Google moved into the neighborhood about 2013, I think, or 2012, 2011. So you have all these tech companies, and rent skyrocketed. When I moved to Los Angeles was affordable. As an actor, you move to New York or LA, right? And LA was completely affordable. I think I got a 1-bedroom apartment here in Hollywood when I first moved here, and it was like $700 a month, right? That was 97. By 2010, 2011, your 2-bedroom apartment is running, $2,500, $3,000. And they kept on raising it, and they didn't take care of the apartment. So we ended up we found mold again, and we had to move. And that cost a lot of money. So it was a lot of stress. And my ex-wife was, there's probably, plenty of stories I can tell around that, but I think the stories are worthy. It's the world that we live in. My wife was a fashion buyer and very successful, but Amazon.com and online platforms were displacing her whole industry. They don't need a buyer that can see the clothes in LA and send them to New York because she's got the it factor and she knows what fashions are going to sell. So she's a hot commodity, right? And then now the consumer can look online and look at the clothing and buy it or not buy it. So they didn't need her. And so her industry was dwindling at that time. And my business did really well when my son came. And then when my daughter came, we moved into this new house and it had mold and we didn't know it. And I think that was one of the reasons why she had preeclampsia. It put so much stress in the body, right? And preeclampsia is just the energy through the umbilical cord the nutrition wasn't getting to the baby and she wasn't growing. So she came 5 weeks early. So there was that stress, and also the stress, the hormones change with women. And the older the woman, and I think my wife was 40 at the time when she had our second child. And that was just a huge stress. And then, to take complete culpability, I grew up on the street. I'm a little rough and tough with my language, and, I have anger and stuff like that. And she's got
As you should. I feel it absurd to have a strong man that is also completely emotionally soft. Like, how does that work? You want me to protect you, but I cannot be angry.
Right.
Like how it comes hand in hand. The testosterone just needs to be channeled. Like,
correct.
You need to have an output, not on your wife, but I cannot be calm and like so soft at home, but when a burglar comes, then I will like ramp up and like kill him.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
Right.
You're supposed to be angry.
Right.
You're allowed to be angry. You should be angry.
Anger is a gift.
It's the most powerful tool, probably.
That's right. So
another question: do you think that women it makes me sick that they wait till 40? I feel like this is not how God made us.
No.
You said your daughter has her period now. Which I'm not
She's
saying
ready.
But why?
12 years old. I mean, that's when the girls mature.
I know, but why did God? I know, but why did God make us be able to carry children that young? Right. Is it because maybe you don't pass all your trauma into this little baby when you're like 40 because you're so like you read all the Fauci and you read all you know how bad the world is and you put that all in your baby? Or you raise the baby with such a frustrating household where you're just so frustrated with everything. How can you be frustrated when you're like 15 or 18?
Right.
You're not. And maybe your mom helps you. Maybe you're still at home. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a whole village raising a child.
Tribal structure, right.
I don't think you're supposed to freeze your eggs. I think it's sickening.
No.
It's all wrong. Like you say, like no fab and and OnlyFans, and those are like the obvious ones. But what about the waiting till you're old to have or have no children at all?
Yes. Yes.
It's not supposed to be like that.
Yes. We are out of balance on
and of course that puts a lot
levels.
of stress that fucks with her whole brain. She's like, I have to have children, but now it's too late and I'm too old, and what now, you know?
Right.
And now she puts that stress on you, and now you get angry as
Right. Yes. And all of the above. And I got caught up in, the spiritual side of LA, and I worked with a lot of healers, and they're talking about the divine feminine, and then you got feminism coming home to roost. I mean, she's a Korean national, and she came over here, as a solo young woman, and went to New York and really made it for herself. So she looks as feminine as all get up, but she's got her man pants on for sure. I mean, she's been surviving for that many years. And yes, there was definitely pressure when we met. She wanted to get married at 36. That clock ticks. I've dated other women at that age. And so that was a play at it. And again, no bad or good, and I don't ever want to come off as a victim or making excuses. But yeah, there's layers of challenges in the modern world that we were presented with. My parents fought over money, and both my parents are divorced. I never really believed in marriage. She needed help with her green card, and she was a very nice person, and I liked her, and we were hanging out quite a bit. And I offered to use my American status to help her stay in the country. And then I came back from the rainforest, and I've never been exposed to children because people are weird about their children here. I don't have nieces and nephews. So when I went to the rainforest and the kids are all on the street and stuff, and they're all walking up to you and they're like precious. So when I came home from the rainforest after drinking the ayahuasca, I was ready. I was 40 and I was ready to have children at the time. And she was game for that. And so we created a family. And some of our arguments were really around money and fear. And no matter what I did, it didn't work for her. She hated her job, but that's what she went back to when she felt the money crunch. And again, how much were we really in the money crunch? Our kids were in private schools. We had brand new cars. We live in a vacation destination and we're eating organic food. And so, yeah, the proverbial sky is falling and the lion's chasing us because we're riding the edge of money creation, but we were still surviving. So those money talks really got on both of our nerves. And whether it was gaslighting, that shit made me fucking angry. And I wrote it in the book. You can read about it in the book. Both of us, we don't play nice when we argue. And so, those arguments got more intense. And she used this one. She stopped having sex with me. She used sex against me. And that really fucking pissed me off. And eventually I said, either let me have a girlfriend or I'm going to get a girlfriend, right? I didn't want a divorce. I wanted to keep the family together. And I ended up getting a girlfriend. And that was very short-lived. And then she rose to the occasion. And we rode that wave for a while, but I think she really resented me for making that move because she was using sex against me anyways. And so I got a DUI in 2016, and I stopped drinking in 1999 as like a party animal, and I didn't drink that much at all. And I'm Irish, I can drink. So in 2019, I got a DUI, and it cost the family a lot of money. And again, she was worried about money. And then at that time, I think she really just got back at me because I went out and got a girlfriend while we were married, and she just turned the screws. And that got just hellish, and we argued all the time. And then she finally called for the divorce. I didn't want to get a divorce because I figured we'd still have the same problems, and actually worse problems, because she was still trying to control me from one level or another. And that went on for 2 years. I got my money game together at that point because and then I grew out my hair and my beard, and I just said, fuck it. I don't care what I look like. I'm just going to do this. And I started writing my book, and I really just started creating. And I think that was very attractive for her. And all I care about is my family being together. At that time, I'd already done the Tinder and Bumble and realized, oh my God, this is, people got plenty of fucking problems and I don't need any more problems. I got 2 beautiful children. I got my business and I'm focused on that. So I went celibate back then.
That means
no sex with women.
okay.
I'm
No fabbing either.
You know, I ejaculate probably maybe once or twice a month. I like to keep it on the low at my age. And so, and I like to stay away from pornography as much as possible. And so, and there was a time when I was off it, just before we got back together, I was off pornography for a couple of years and practicing no FAP and semen retention and sexual kung fu and breath work. And so we ended up getting back together. We did ayahuasca at a healing retreat in Costa Rica. And I just wanted to keep my family together and keep it fucking simple, right? She's a beautiful woman. And I definitely have love for her. And I wanted to keep my family together. And so money started getting better. And then I released my book. We got back together, but I don't like paperwork. I don't like these government contracts at all whatsoever. And so we didn't get married back on paper. We were clean, clear, and divorced. And we didn't have any money during the divorce. So that was it. It's on paper. She never gets alimony. My business took off. And then we got back together, coronavirus happened, and then we moved to Sedona. And the whole time we were in LA, she was complaining about, I just want a yard for my kids and a backyard and so my kids can go outside and play. We moved into Sedona, $1 million house, $1 million view, and it was complaining central. I couldn't believe it. And
of course,
I was paying for maids, and I don't want to cook. I don't want to be a wife. I don't want to be. I want you to use your social media to make me a famous healer from Sedona. And I'm like, well, you haven't done very much healing work. I mean, that's kind of inauthentic. And so, anyways, that was her idea, and none of my business partners or people that were helping me out with the book and my websites and stuff, none of them wanted to work with her. And so, she played some control mechanisms. Anyway, she moved out, and then she ended up vaporizing my savings account that I started after the divorce. And I was really proud of myself because I saved $63,000, and I'd never saved up that much money in my life. And she vaporized it in one fell swoop. Very, very angry towards me. And then she dragged me into court, and she got some attorneys to listen to her, and I stood up for myself, and I fought it with my own affidavits, and then I beat her in court, and then she cried that she was broke, and so I gave her enough money to pay, more money than we were both making when we first got divorced. And so she used that money to get another attorney, and she started another lawsuit. And then I defaulted on that lawsuit. But by that time, I'd sold my business. I, did whatever paperwork that I had to protect the legacy for the children. And so she's still trying to fight. And this is 3 years after we got back together, 3 years since we've been separated this time, and 6 years since the divorce. And it's this whole entitlement of feminism and getting lawyers to listen to her and lying to the police. She said I raped a girl in front of my children and to get a restraining order. I mean, real human fuckery, and lying, she considers herself a Christian. Lying and stealing, these are deadly sins. And yeah, man, I mean, I'm still going through it, and all as I do is I just love my kids and I want the best for her. And so through this process, because I like to take it internal, I like to take as much culpability on myself. That's why I talk about my own anger. I never hit her. Police have never been called for us or anything like that. But she tried to play that whole card and get restraining orders and just get sympathy from the courts. And so we never had that. we do raise our voices and swear at each other. I put it in the book. It's in the book. And, but it was this whole gaslighting and like prodding the male until he fucking explodes, right? And then she'd get, oh, you exploded, you're the bad guy. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So that was all she had on me. That's why I did ibogaine this past year, and I think it healed a part of my nervous system. I just keep growing. I spent the last 2 or 3 years in my house alone, meditating a lot. Normally I'm out, Venice Beach, Muscle Beach, Air One every day. And for the last 3 years, I've been living in the desert. There's a Native American saying, if you want to heal the body, go to the ocean. If you want to heal the mind, go to the mountains. If you want to heal the soul, go to the desert. And I do believe the desert has dredged my soul for these last couple of years. And so we're still going through it, but I have full custody of my children now. She tried to take custody of my children away too. That's fucked up, right? And finally I moved to the Valley in Scottsdale, and I got a good attorney, and all my family shit's all locked up and doing good. Now I have full custody of my daughter, and my son's in a boarding school playing hockey. And yeah, she stole that money from me and bought an Airbnb in Sedona. I'm like, why don't you just live in that house? But no, everything's got to be like a con or something like that. And so I don't know.
Do you think this...
It's a lot of personal information, but
do you think this darkness is what you needed? Do you think God gave you, you know how you said you had stomach issues and then you looked so much into
health, nutrition?
Because every time I see something, adversity in my life, I see that it's never bad or just bad.
Yes.
And you tell me the story, and I don't see it like, of course, like you waste a lot of time and it's very dark, but maybe that's why you are who you are now. Not as an excuse. I hate when people are like, made me the person I am today, but maybe it made you got you on your path to save the world.
Yes, absolutely. So my prayer has been to find more peace and harmony. One of my affirmations is I am a humble, kind, and gentle man. You know, I grew up on the street, and you know, I was incarcerated as a youth, so I had some roughness around me, especially in my language and stuff like that. And I can ruin relationships. And anger is a gift, right? I'm very intuitive and empathic, and so I can size up a room and maybe destroy relationships that weren't meant to be in the first place. I don't like any of the bullshit. When I was modeling, I hated the sexual innuendos and the homosexuals trying to come after me after I said no 50 million times, right? And so, and just being, you know, rude, especially, you know, sexually. I can understand how women, you know, don't like the predatory aspect of a male sexuality. I can get that because I dealt with that in the fashion industry. And so, so my anger has served a purpose, but what worked for me in my teens and my 20s and maybe even my 30s isn't working for me, you know, moving forward. I need to find the more ninja Jedi wizard. My choice is to become the benevolent wise man and fuck around and find out, you know, I can protect myself and speak up for myself. I also learned how to speak up for myself in one of the most dangerous places, the courtroom, right? Without the knowledge of necessarily the ins and outs of laws and procedure, because it's really about the procedure. The laws are pretty simple. Don't tread on me. And it's he said, she said, and whoever has the most documentation. And you can lie straight through your teeth with documentation. And if you don't have a rebuttal or you don't understand procedure, you can get steamrolled, and you can have your rights taken away from you, or at least they can try, right? And so my second book, which isn't out yet, it's an allegory of Brave New World. It's called Brave New Man. And it talks about common law. It talks about natural law, as above, so below, the law of cause and effect, the law of gender, the law of polarity, as we do all this gender-bending bullshit, mind control, right? There's a law of gender, law of polarity. Things are done a certain way on this planet, and these are the governing elements. And so, and I think as men, we have to go through this and challenge and be poked and prodded enough to wake up to it. And now I don't need to explode like a teenager anymore. I can take things a little bit more in stride and be calculating. What I learned from all these court proceedings is that time can open up portals. There's a St. Teresa prayer that somebody gave me during my divorce, and it says, May today there be peace within. May you never forget the infinite possibility born in yourself and others. And infinite possibilities in myself and others is just infinite possibilities everywhere. Just portals and worlds can just open up. And you see that now. It's like we're going towards this dystopian state, yet you see so many people waking up. Like we can shift in an instant, just like when we went in lockdown and the pollution cleared up within weeks in this town. Because this place is, LA is one of the top polluted cities in the world. So things can change in an instant. And so, so these things were all catalysts just for me to go deeper in my own energetic makeup. And instead of being a wizard in the past, I was just a reactive, much more reactive person. And so it's allowed me to get deeper into my meditation, deeper into my solitude and healing with myself. Like I said, I was more of an outward person out in society. And this past 3 years has made me really go inside, and I love being with myself, right? I 100% love being with myself. And it's given me more of an appreciation. And I hate injustice. That's what most of the thing that drives me. And but I also realize that my consciousness can create that. And so like a ninja, you know, like doing Tai Chi and Qigong or, you know, Kung Fu, you have to move with the energy and you have to be able to recognize it and dodge. And it just taught me more wisdom is the bottom line. I'm grateful for the experience. And they say that the people closest to you, those are the ones can actually push your buttons. And if it awakens you up to the next level, then this soul connection has given you that opportunity. So I like to keep it in that framework because there's no victims and I'm not a victim. So thank you, my ex-wife, for helping me grow.
She definitely did. Do you have any siblings?
Yes, and it was pretty funny because they took her side, and
Jesus.
And so I don't. My younger brother died of heroin overdose at 30 something. And that's in the book too, because I tried to bring him down for ayahuasca. I didn't know about ibogaine at the time. And then he died right after I came back, and it was a month before my son was born. And I do believe my son is the reincarnation of my brother, 100%. I even call him my brother's name sometimes. And my stepfather, he says he looks exactly, he just looks and feels like my little brother. And then my older brother, he's been in the fitness industry for years, and there's stories of him in the book. But I asked him just to write me something for the court, for family court, just on my character, nothing against her or pro me, just on my character and the fact that I took care of my children every single day since the day they were born. And he wouldn't do that. And then my real father, he took her side too. And that motherfucker left me on the side of the road when I was 14. And I always asked him, I tried to build a relationship back to him because I want to forgive and spiritually grow. And so for the last 15 or 20 years, I've just been friends with him, and he's tried to give me advice, and I'm like, you know, let's not go there because you're coming from an empty cup, right? Because you weren't there really to guide me. So what do you really know? And so this time around, you know, there was large theft in this last breakup, and lots of lying. And I think one of his friends helped find an attorney for her. I don't know. I just didn't like it. And also there was a lot of, there was a lot of recordings going on of me, and she was using my live presentations on social media for the courtroom. And so I'm like, I told my dad, anything I say and do, say to you can be used against me in the court of law. So I have no interest in talking to you whatsoever. And so, and that's probably the way it'll be. You know, he's getting older, and then people don't want to apologize. They, you know, I'm always, I did some AA and some 12-step work, and I think it's really good to take inventory of what you've done and then make reparations and apologies where it's due. And I've always prided myself on doing that, admitting my wrongs. And when people lie, and then they never did anything. They want to move over. And just they never admit it. The good thing that happened when she took away my kids in Sedona is I was doing ecstatic dance, and then I was at a ecstatic dance on Saturday night, and somebody said they were going over to this place, and I said, "There's a nightclub in Sedona, 10,000 people there." I'm like, bull fucking shit. And I love dancing, but I haven't danced since I stopped partying. Right, Hollywood. I don't like going out here. They're not dancing, they're just seeing, be seen. Like Europe, people are out dancing, having fun, or they're dancing, right? Here, it's all about just being seen. So I went to this nightclub, and they had a Burning Man system, really high-end, $100,000 system. It was the best system I've ever heard in my life, actually. Guy's name is Dex Nygren. And it was in this basement in Sedona, and it would just move the waters of my body. And I was like, holy shit. And I was doing ecstatic dance, and I'd been doing Qigong as well. And I just danced for 6 months. She took my kids away, and I usually have them on the weekends. And I just danced for 6 months with great music and all in my spine and my pelvis, and just got everything moving. And I think it was pretty healing for me. It was really healing. And I hadn't danced like that since my Miami days back in the 90s. It was great. I love dancing, especially with a good sound system, you know?
Dang, that's so much pain.
Well, thanks for letting me share, and hopefully it comes off and helps the person hearing it the right way. My ex-wife doesn't use it in a court of law for me.
Do you feel like lonely?
You know, I got some good homies around me, right? I got some really...
In Arizona or in general?
They live elsewhere, but they come and stay at my house. I got a nice big house, and I don't let a lot of people around me anymore because of what happened. I was doing men's work with a guy, and I got the pictures from my book back, and I showed him. I said, "Dude, these are fucking some of the best pictures I've ever seen in my life." They were shot with a $48,000 Leica, and it was shot by Steve Lyons. He's the #1 male model in the 90s, turned into a photographer. And I was like, fuck, these pictures are fucking amazing. And he goes, dude, that's your ego. And I'm like, dude, we're doing men's work together, and you aren't happy for your fucking boy? He's got a book coming out. I'm like, what are you, fucking crazy? But that was like, the haters, they really do exist. The crabs in the bucket do want to, hold you down. And so I was just like, holy shit. And then, the ex-wife did the same thing. It was unbelievable. Like when I started coming up, it was unbelievable. The haters that came out. It was, envy and jealousy is real. And so the last 3 years, I've spent a lot of time alone. I've got, most of my friends are Czech practitioners, so they have the same education I do from Paul Chek. They're fit people. They know where the good food is. And so those are the type of people that I trust and I can hang out with. And there's a couple of guys, they're much more quieter than me. It's easy for me to hang out with quiet guys because I can get all energetic, and usually that lifts their vibration up. My assistant is a kind of a quiet guy, and he can feed off of my energy, and vice versa. I need calm people around me, and so these guys will stay at my house for months at a time. They'll just live with me, and we get the good food and we cook it. My one business partner, he has titanium cookware. He travels with it, and he goes to the farmer's market, and he gets goat head soup, and he just makes awesome food. And so we just hang out. I've been celibate. I'm becoming, friends with girls, but I realized even becoming friends with girls, it can lead them down the wrong way. And if I'm not going to have sex with them, but I wanted to become friends with them and just be like, before I even have sex, like, let's just become friends. Do we even like each other? And that's turned into some really good friendships. But I also think that on the back end, they would like to have sex. And I'm not there because I've seen the emotional waves of a woman. And I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm focused on my business. I'm focused on my children. I'm focused on my own mental, emotional, and spiritual health. So I'm just putting myself, forward. And so I've been celibate for the last couple of years. And again, the one girl I had sex with when I first moved to Sedona, she accused me of rape, and there was gossip in the town. And it wasn't rape. She was an interesting artist, and I was working on a magazine article they were doing on me, and I was going to present some assets. And she's like, "Oh, I can do that. I do graphic design." And I looked at her art, and I said, "Oh, that's kind of cool. All right, yeah, I'll do that." And she's like, I can do it for like $200 a day or something like that. And this is the other thing I noticed with working with people off the internet or hiring people. Most people aren't professional. They can't finish the job. They see other people bidding the job and they bid it or they low bid it, but then they won't finish the job and you got to go on their emotional tirade to get the job finished. I dealt with that with building the cover of that book right there. The first person that bid the job couldn't finish it, and it took me 4 months and 2 other hires to actually finish, get all the graphics there, what I wanted. And so this person did some art for me, and then I noticed some red flags while we were working together. She started making demands, and I asked for a purple line instead of a teal green line. She goes, that's my reputation. I'm like, wait a second, slow down. This isn't your art. This is a hired job for me, and I'm the boss, and this is what I want. So just try the purple instead of the teal. And instantly I was like, okay, let's start backing up here, and then how you do anything is how you do everything. And so we had already had sex, and then I just started pulling back from everything, and I was just like, oh, this is the way the person's going to show up. And then when I wouldn't have sex with her, then she just went ballistic. And so and then she spread the rumor that I raped her, and we had total consensual sex. And then with the toxic masculinity and cancel culture, and then my rise of coming up or whatever, I didn't want to expose myself to any more danger. So I just stopped having sex with women and worked on myself. And I do want to have children. I want to have another family. And so eventually I'll find that. And if I have to find a traditional woman in, another country, I'm happy to do that as well, because I think the women in America are just tainted, and there is so much entitlement. Even towards the end of my marriage, when we moved to Sedona, I mean, my ex-wife is an amazing cook, and Korean culture, and so nutritious food. And I like that. So she held the sex and the food away from me. How the fuck are you going to do that? And that's not fair. And if that's the game, then okay, all right. I just don't like that game. So, but I am very interested in having more children, because I think children are the gift and the future of the planet. And I think that there's nothing more spiritual and powerful than creating and having a family. And I'm romanticized with the stories of the great tobacco shaman of the Amazon rainforest my mentor used to tell me about. And he had 100 kids, and he had 1,000 grandchildren, and he was 100 years old, and he was an old tobacco shaman. And I just fucking love that story. And so, and I'm all about legacy. The Muslims are all down for having tons of kids and stuff and leaving their legacy. And I think it's baked into the Jewish culture as well. So yeah, man, I want tons of kids, educate them properly, create that legion, and send them out into the world to create peace and harmony on this planet.
That's the best thing. That's what I want.
That's right. That's right, baby. I love that.
Many, many kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you, man. And you have a young one. So I think you asked about, the hormones with women and having children when you're younger. I think that is much better for the hormones. They're much more equipped.
The body can take it much easier. We've had other friends, 40 years old, they crippled under the pressure.
Yep.
They're always tired.
Yep.
Especially for a female body, it is a lot to take.
Yep. And that's definitely
it is so much easier when you're young.
Yep.
You can bounce back right away.
And that's exactly what happened with my ex-wife. Mm-hmm. She was ruined at 40. I think she got thyroiditis. She was exhausted, and she didn't want to go back to work, but one of my businesses went down. I hadn't figured out how to monetize. And I did the old collegiate spirit. I was like, you know what? I love the kids. My business is trucking along. I'm still building it. I will take care of them. I'll take care of them. She went down to downtown LA and did what she knew how to do. And
but see, this is where everything gets out of order.
Right? She resented me for it. And, as soon as she could get me back at it, take my money or whatever, she did. And if it was a different way and I had better tools and I knew how to survive better, and the debt slave economy, 2008, people don't realize Obama paid out the banks. He put $1 trillion into the economy. Bush put $1 trillion, and then Obama put $1 trillion. That watered down all of our money. And I didn't have my money game on at the point. And I was working on my online career, monetizing online. And I never wanted to advertise on my YouTube channel because I felt that was commercializing my art. And I didn't want shitty commercial advertising on my YouTube. So I never monetized my YouTube channel that way. I didn't have the audience at the time either. So it was really back-end marketing. And
are you ever afraid that they're going to come for you?
I've seen a vision.
Because like it seems to me, it's only a matter of how big you are, right? Mm-hmm. What you stand for is against any kind of institution, any kind of what they want to control. You free people's mind. It's very dangerous. So it's just a matter of how big you are, how much influence you have, kind of, until they come after you. We've seen it with Alex Jones, Andrew Tate, Kanye.
And I think I've floated below the radar. My YouTube, I've been on it 20 years almost, and I have 133,000 on there still. So I think I've just floated under the radar. And now with so many people red-pilled and awakened, maybe I'm still floating below the radar. I get shadow banned, and I have been shadow banned, but I have help now with that. But I saw a vision a long time ago. I go through battle unscathed. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I make it. I'm not a target. I'm not afraid to die, so I don't care anyways, right? You know? And I know the truth, and the truth will set us all free. You know, the way I see it is there's motherfuckers watching my urine therapy and butthole sunning and ball slapping and shit, and their boss may tell them from the FBI to watch my ass, but they're fucking getting a kick out of me. Right? They're getting a kick out of me. And I'm not that much of a threat anyways. I don't do things that are illegal. I don't sell drugs, do drugs. I talk about my own experience with psychedelic plant medicine, but I don't do anything wrong. I'm not a liar, cheater, stealer, scammer, con artist. I'm not a bullshit salesman. That's another thing that pisses me off online these days. Like, everybody's a marketer now. And anyways, I'm not here to bullshit people, and I think people can see through that. And so I'm a family man. I'm a father.
But what if they just make up things like what they did with Andrew Tate? They just make it up.
Yeah, they could probably do that. My ex-wife tried to get some.
And a handsome man like you is easily targeted.
Yeah, it must be that vision that I've had. I'm untouchable.
Did you follow the Andrew Tate? What, going to prison?
I did. And with so much...
Do you think that's why he's in Romania, or?
You know, I don't know what's going on with the rest of the world. I can only really pay attention to myself. I like the stuff that Andrew says. I really like it. I like his brother too. There's something... I want to be friends with those guys. And they hung out with Sugar Sean O'Malley, who lives where I live. And I was on his coach's podcast, and I love Sugar Sean. And I saw that Sugar Sean was with Andrew Tate in Dubai and stuff. And I could definitely see myself being friends with those guys. But I don't know what's up with them. As far as, you know, people say it's controlled opposition, and his dad worked for the CIA, and, you know, everybody's controlled opposition. Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, controlled opposition. I just question.
What does that mean? Controlled.
They're opposite. They're counterculture, but they're actually controlled, and whatever is on there gets leaked. I did there's a journalist I worked with and did a live Instagram, Danny Katz, and she talks about this. And
so they let them talk.
Yeah, they let the information out. In fact, there's a.
So it's not seeking through. It is.
They let the information out that they're doing. Like, it's no secret that Event 201 happened. They did a planned pandemic in October of 2019 with Bill Gates' foundation. It's called Event 201, where they went through the whole scenario of the coronavirus type of situation. And so what do they call that? Where they leak the information. It's out in plain sight.
Why do they do that?
I think it obeys spiritual law, where if you tell someone, it's the same thing with contract law and your birth certificate. When you tell someone and then they comply, so that's why you don't comply and you say no to this totalitarian stuff. You just
That's what
don't
Andrew
comply.
says. If you tell them I'm going to do something, you don't do it.
They're not liable.
Yes.
They're not liable in plain sight. And so they announce it in predictive programming and movies. You know, this could just be secret code. We're the dark forces to wake you up. Wake up, motherfucker. You know, and it's like we keep rising to higher and higher levels of awareness. And then people that want justice and they want to do good, they're going to create stuff, right? We're going to create systems, free energy, gift economy. Permaculture is already invented. You drop a seed in the ground and it fruits. And so, and we only need 4 things: food, water, shelter, and fire. And we just need to get back to basics, I truly believe. And you have to crack some eggs to make a souffle, so things can look ugly. Or what is that other Illuminati saying? From chaos to order. And they're trying to create chaos because they want to create the one world government and the one world monetary system and the one world religion. And that's just top-down control. But at the core of who we are, we're wild fucking animals. We're only going to put up with it for so long, you know?
So Joe Rogan doesn't have to worry?
About,
I always wonder that. Why he moved to Austin. Why people move certain places and move, like if they have... I always wondered if he has to like worry about his life, you know?
well,
But you say they let him.
they gave him $100 million. And I'm sure Spotify probably paid for some of the move. I'm not sure, but he gave him $100 million so he can go wherever he wants. And again, I could speculate about Joe Rogan all day. I don't know. Is he controlled opposition? I don't know. He's been friends with Alex Jones, though, since before the internet. I remember seeing something early on.
Do you think Alex Jones is
Controlled opposition?
controlled opposition?
At the end of the day, I don't think it really matters because he's raising so much awareness and he speaks so much fucking truth. And if he got canceled, that means...
Well, he is canceled, but like, what about they want to kill him?
Or they don't kill him. Why don't they kill him?
Why did they kill Kennedy?
These are all great questions. And his brother, Robert Kennedy Jr., JFK Jr.'s
How long are they going to let
father.
him talk? And how is he? He really talks his shit. I'm very surprised that they let him. They really let him.
I'm really surprised of how much kind of truth is happening on Twitter right now. And
Elon is really, I don't know if he's,
well, he's about AI and putting fucking a chip in your brain.
I know, but he's also really making free speech. Like he controls the only social media platform kind of that has free speech.
Rumble is free too, right?
Yeah.
To a certain degree, BitChute. But didn't he censor somebody? And
Well, Alex Jones is
and
censored.
Alex Jones is not allowed back on the
I don't
platform.
know why though. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very strange. And what I've turned into, because, you know, even if you talk about the good things that happened when Trump was president, you get canceled as you talk about anything. So I just like to observe as much as possible. And truly, I only know what's going on right here, right now. Truly.
Yeah.
And that is actually, this is what I teach my students as well. The ultimate truth, because everybody's looking for the truth, right? People think they're sharing truth. The ultimate truth and the only real truth, and this is from Descartes to Plato, right? The biggest philosophers, is I am here right now. That's all you can say. Because the past doesn't exist and anyone else's, it's just opinion, conjecture, hypothesis. 2/3 of all Nobel Prizes get overturned in science within 10 years. As we discover more about ourselves, and the apparatus, the electron microscope gets we can see smaller stuff, or we can see from the Hubble telescope bigger stuff, and things keep changing. It's ever evolving. Science is a methodology of observation. It's not a static factoid, right? Didn't we have 9 planets until they kicked Pluto out? It's like things keep changing. And so, and we're not hypocritical. We live in a dualistic paradox. And so, this is deep philosophy. And so at this stage of the game, I really watch what I say when it comes to Kanye, when it comes to Andrew Tate, when it comes to Alex Jones.
So you censor? Because I always catch myself self-censoring because I'm scared, but I don't want to be scared. I want to say what I want to say. If I like Trump, I want to say I like Trump.
Well,
why do I have to watch out what I say? Because...
Well, again, is he controlled opposition? Because he was for the vaccine, right? Did he change the economy and things were growing? And does he support the black community? I witnessed that in his presidency. I witnessed him do the Reform Act and get corporations to hire inmates. I watched that happen.
But you have to be careful about speaking about him, is what you're saying, no?
Anytime you mention the man's name, you're a misogynist. It doesn't matter. People think if I mention his name, I get labeled as a right-wing conspiracy theorist, January 6th motherfucker. And my friend did the Plandemic movie, Mickey Willis, and he was out there filming at the time. He's a journalist. And the FBI pulled him in, right? And so, and I see January 6th as a psyop. Right? It's a false flag. They had government officials acting as bad actors. The security inside the Capitol stood down. The QAnon shaman, I've seen him interviewed, super intelligent guy. Watch the Michael Knowles interview from the Daily Wire on the QAnon shaman. And he talks about shamanism. This is a wise brother that was in there, the guy with the fur hat and watch that interview. It was extremely powerful. And so as far as I can see, and I looked into Sandy Hook, I looked into 9/11, I looked into the German Reichstag being burned down by the Nazi Party. I looked into these things. I wasn't there, but I think as an intelligent human being, you should be able to look at as many pieces of information that you can gather and then make your own understanding. Now, if Alex Jones denies the official story of Sandy Hook, he's completely canceled and kicked off. And so I looked at everything. Building 7 and 9/11, NORAD standing down for 9/11, the way those buildings were dustified. I've looked into investigative reports from Dr. Judy Wood. I've looked at other angles. I've listened to firefighters. I've seen plenty of information. I wasn't there. I didn't plan it. I don't know exactly what happened, but it's certainly not the way it's been sold and told to the American people in the world. Then we went to war in Afghanistan right after that. I understand that Afghanistan is about pipelines and the movement of oil, and that we were at the table with the Taliban and was it Sunoco or 76 Gulf Oil. They were trying to put a pipeline through Afghanistan. We were at the table before 9/11 happened. And then right after that, we're in Afghanistan. And we stayed there for 20 years. And then we evacuated. How did we evacuate? We left all our fucking machinery there. Like, there's some weird fucking shit. At the bare minimum, let me just be a silent witness and question it all, question reality. Because that's what I'm here to do. My own spirituality, what's going on inside of me. No FAP, no ejaculation, married, not married, trying to do my best, doing my best, taking care of my children, eating good food, not eating good food, doing drugs. What's the difference? It's all a human experiment. And I'm here to question absolutely everything. And I've looked at the data on quite a few of these false flags. Why are all these school shootings so weird? And right after the school shootings, they try and encroach on the Second Amendment. And of course, if you look at the history of guns and taking the guns away from people, you see genocide right on the back end. So I look at the Second Amendment as the only thing that is keeping the last vestiges of freedom on this planet in place. And this school shooting, and then why does it get put on the news? Why does all the nonsense get put on the news and magnified to the nth degree? Like 9/11, they just played those images for months after that, day in, day out, day in, day out. And so it was like to program you. And again, going back to how does the human mind work? It stores information in images. Edward Bernays was Freud's nephew. He took all that psychological information about your mother and oral fixations and all that stuff and used it against us in television advertising and marketing. And what did we do? The whole industrial age blossomed. You can sell whatever you want. You can sell pet rocks. You can sell poison and cigarettes to women. And doctors were smoking. And this is the advertisement from the 40s and the 50s. And so it all just seems like a bunch of bullshit. And it's based on fake money currencies to make more money and to keep people in power. It's not about the money. Once you have all the money, it's about the power and the controlling of the people. And you can't control nature. They tried to control nature up in the north. It was in Montana, right around the big national park up there. And they ended up having one of those 100-year fires that just torched everything. And from there, the scorched earth, the greenery started to pop up and the animals started to come back. And so you can't control nature. So why don't we just work with nature and go in a harmonic, symbiotic system instead of we put static linear inputs. That's the way we explain science, right? We put something in a petri dish, we harm it, or we allow it to proliferate, and then that's the way it is. Well, petri dish isn't fucking life. Try putting it out in a dynamic, harmonic system. That's real life. Everything's changing. The only constant in the universe is change, right? It's like an oxymoron. The only thing that's constant in the universe is change. So everything's changing. That was the essence of what my meditation teacher taught. Things rise and go away. They rise and go away. And what we have here is like people are like, oh no, that's the way it is. And here's how 9/11 happened. Why did the CIA institute the word conspiracy theory to gaslight people that were questioning how that motherfucker got killed? Well, it certainly wasn't the official story, right? We figured that out with Oliver Stone's movie and all the information that was redacted 50 years after the murder, right? And so Freedom of Information Act, it was released from the FBI files. And there was different angles and his head blew off. And it blew off not in the trajectory of said shot coming from the book depository. So I just think that there's so much lies and illusions that are sold to us. And if that is true, it's like in a court of law. Once you get caught lying, they don't trust you at all.
That's what happens. That's what happened with COVID, I think, is...
It was all a lie.
No, and people just noticed. It wasn't like with the AIDS pandemic where there's no internet and like you can't leak information that quick.
Yeah.
I feel like this time, I don't know if they can do it again. People say they're going to do it again. I don't know, because it seems like there's a huge awakening happening.
Yeah.
And of course, I love the within and I love the health, but also I feel responsibility to speak. And I have problems with how much do I self-censor or do I self-censor at all? But then I'm going to be deleted of every platform. They freeze bank accounts. I mean, things are crazy.
Yeah, that stuff does happen. A friend of mine is owned.
I mean, what happened to Kanye is insane.
No shit.
That really made me like there's cancel and there's real cancellation, like, you know.
And then you don't have money to feed yourself.
And money is some sort of independence. If you don't have money, then you're a real slave.
He was trying to put a food forest over here. He started studying permaculture. He hired some of my friends.
He tried to build a city.
Right here in Calabasas.
Yeah. And now up in like Wyoming, like...
He did that too.
A different kind of society.
And he wanted curriculum. My friend Tony the gardener out in Phoenix, He was building the curriculum for his
Yeah, I
children.
thought he was really onto something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess he got kind of shut down. But yeah, he was on top of the world.
Well, he
was,
questioned the whole Holocaust, and that really
oh, you don't go there.
You don't go there, and like
It's the same thing with Sandy Hook. You don't go there because that's designed to get you.
so. Do you self-censor or no?
Well, to a certain degree. I mean, talking about Sandy Hook and questioning the Holocaust will definitely get you tons of problems. You know, getting called an anti-Semite, and but the way I couch it is simply look into the war. Who funded Adolf Hitler? Who funded? War is expensive, right? Who funded it? Where?
And you're saying the information is all out?
Well, you can research it to a certain degree. There's one historian out there, but again, he's a Holocaust denier, but he shook more hands with people that shook Hitler's hand, and he wanted to do research. Again, another book that questions the official historic take is Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. When you look at the story from the people that lost the war, it's a different perspective. And I'm only here to tell people to get both sides. Just look at things from both sides, right? And there's more than just both sides. And there's what happened in the moment. But why is there so much propaganda around Israel? Why are the people of Gaza enslaved? If it's such a utopian element that, Israel be protected, right? Why did Bretton Woods happen? Why was that agreement, put in place? Why can't you question history whatsoever without getting completely canceled? How do we treat the people of Gaza? Let's even go back even further. What is Jerusalem? What is that holy land? Why is it so sacred? Zechariah Sitchin has books on the aliens landing there. Why are the Sumerian tablets and that part of the world, why was it so important? What are the Egyptian pyramids really about? These are the questions that I ask myself. I leave no stone unturned. I went down to the Mayan temples, the Incan temples. The Incan temples, they have the Temple of Lightning. It's 3/4 of a mile long, 3 stories. There's 3 tiers to it. And some of the stones are 180 tons. We have no equipment that can lift that size of a rock. The sculpture that we have at the LA Museum down here with the big rock over it, that took 2 cranes to lift it. So this thing is built 3/4 of a mile long with the biggest stones on earth. Back, we don't know how long Sacsayhuaman was built, the Temple of the Lightning. And they're placed like a Chinese puzzle. There's no mortar. There's no drilling. It's just the placement of these rocks. And they don't move. There was a 9.7 earthquake in Peru in early 1900s. And the conquistadors built Catholic churches over a lot of these sites. And in 1917, I think it was, that 9.7 earthquake wiped out the Catholic churches. And the Incan temples are still standing underneath them. And so it's pretty powerful. Have you ever been to Cusco and Machu Picchu and stuff? No. So I ask the real...
I've looked into that, and it seems like, well, they always say on Joe Rogan that there's been many societies before us, highly advanced.
Yep.
And every time something happens, and then we just start barbaric again. It takes us thousands and thousands of years to go back to this high advanced society.
Yeah, word around the campfire is they were abusing technology in Atlantis, and Atlantis fell. Mm-hmm. And so,
yeah.
So I mean, look, I question everything, and I want to look deeper into it. I don't need to go into World War II, but I do like recent history as well as ancient history, because Mao Zedong was a real human being. He murdered 60 million motherfuckers. Right? Political dissidents. The basic tenet of the United States of America is free speech, so that you can question anything. And it's legal, right? It's the law of the land. And so Joseph Stalin, we give so much energy to Hitler and the Holocaust and the Jews, but what about the Armenian genocide? What about the Native American genocide? Genocide has been on this planet for a long time. 6 million Jews is one thing, but Mao Zedong did 60 million. And Stalin, I think between the Nazis and Stalin, I think it's the guesstimation is like 120 million, I do believe. So Stalin did actually more people than Hitler, but we give Hitler so much attention. And what's the iconography around the swastika? And the reverse swastika was a Native American, and it represented life. So they flipped it around, and that's death. And we have a death wish in this world right now. Look at the energy drink or the water, Liquid Death. Where did that come from? Why is it such a popular and a number one seller on Amazon and Whole Foods? I sell Liquid Sunshine, right? Greens from the earth, wheatgrass.
And people want liquid death.
And they want Liquid Death with a skull on it. Why do you want that?
Have you seen Doja Cat's album and her whole satanic thing going on? There's so much with like celebrities and
no, I heard about it,
yeah.
but I haven't followed that. And Little Nas X, I had a producer friend that I hang out with in Erewhon in Venice, and interesting fellow. And I think he has a background in special forces as well. He's a surfer, but he was like, "Dude, we're trying to get a hold of Little Nas X," and I'm like, "Why? What are you doing?" He's, he blew up and he did the recut with Billy Ray Cyrus, and we're trying to get him on contract, and we're trying to shoot his first video. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I thought that tune was pretty catchy. What was that the cowboy
Road?
tune? It's
Yeah.
fucking great. And I love hip hop, so I like the catchy tunes and stuff. And next thing you know, this guy's a fucking weirdo, sexual, fucking devil worshipping, like unassuming little teenager, and he's rocked out in Gucci and all these luxury things, and he's a multimillionaire, and it's like, it's like, what is going on? And then you see him on the Grammys or this other thing, and he's dressed up as the devil and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God. I didn't go down the rabbit hole of that, but I was just like,
oh, it's happening.
It's just friggin' weird. And then the Kanye situation is weird too. And I followed, elements of the career of The Rock, Prince, and Kanye because they were into extreme ownership. Like I own my trademark. I own the trademark to the book. I own the trademark to Certified Health Nut. I own the trademark to my men's group, Man Clan. And I've got a good trademark attorney. And I'm into extreme ownership, right? Whatever paperwork that I create is all about privatization and ownership of property, because the law is there to protect contracts, property, and tort. There should be a way to retrieve money if you've been injured or taken away from. Equity, I do believe. And I don't know all these terms, but I have been studying them because you can be manipulated by paper. Your birth certificate is traded on the New York Stock Exchange. That is your slave number. Right? A birth certificate, no, social security card. And then you need a birth certificate to get a passport. And then when you get a birth certificate, you sign the rights away and you enter into the system. And you can't get a passport, et cetera, unless you enter into the system. And this is all contract law, and we don't know that. We just have to go down and get our birth certificate and social security card so we can get a passport so we can travel with the child, right? Have you looked into any of that stuff? Yeah, so there's ownership, and it's contract law and maritime law, right? And it's birth certificate. It's maritime law, right? And so, and there's the language prisons that we put ourselves in. And so it's a good idea to start, understanding at least the basics of this, and do your best to get yourself out of the system. There's a whole move towards sovereignty and getting your equity out on paper and reclaiming your power on paper and writing your own affidavits and filing it with certain bureaucratic institutions. I've met people that have done this, and I'm fairly aware of it. The biggest thing is I am sovereign, right? You could say that I am sovereign.
What does that mean?
that I am my own person, right? It's what I get to do. The only law in the world is don't tread on me. Said another way, don't tread on other people's, their rights, right? You have the right to move forward with your property, and your children are your property because they are deemed not adults, right? So your children are your property. So no one can harm property. It's the pursuit of happiness and liberty. You're free to move forward. And traveling, you don't need a license to travel, but they put in all these stipulations. You have to have a license and register your car, but you should be able to move freely. Indians are allowed to go across borders because they're sovereign, right? And again, I'm no expert in this, but I have been looking at this for many years, and I think there's value in it. And if they can hold us on certain contract laws, then getting your paper in order, you can serve people with affidavits. This stuff is all legal and law, and there's a way your name is signed on documents. And it's good to start going down the road of owning this stuff. So what happened to Prince? They killed him because he was pretty aware. Why did he change his name to a symbol? Because they owned the word Prince, and he was under contract. Why did Kanye wants to buy Universal? Because he wants his masters of his art. He doesn't own them. Somebody else owns them, and they make money off it in perpetuity. David Chappelle talks about this in his Netflix specials. His last one was great when he talked about all the trans attacks and stuff like that, and the LGBTQ. And he hired this comedian who was really good, and she was a trans person, and she killed herself because they canceled her online. And he talks about how the Chappelle show, and when he started getting into the Hollywood elite situation, they offered him $50 million for the Chappelle show. It was the best show. I think it was HBO. When he signed the contract, they own it in perpetuity. He doesn't own that. And it's one of the best comedy shows on the planet. And he doesn't own the rights to it. And then he turned the contract down. And then what did they tell him in the news? That he went crazy, that he's smoking crack again. They canceled him back in that day of canceling, which wasn't like what it is today. And he had to claw his way back. He's got some really good. Have you watched all his Netflix shows? Have you seen my Netflix comedy show?
No.
I'm with Chad and JT Go Deep. You know these guys? They're fucking funny. They go to city council meetings and they record it and they play stupid. And they got on Howard Stern from that, and then they got a Netflix show. I've been on their podcast a couple of times, and like they brought Butthole Sunning to the city council in Laguna, and they filmed it. It was fucking funny. So anyways, they sold their show to Netflix, and then they brought me on, and we did ice baths, we did hape, we did qigong, breath work, and ball slapping. And then they took mushrooms, and they were trying to figure out something and save the world or something, and I kind of helped and guided them on the way. And anyways, I love comedy, and I'm on Netflix. So Chad and JT Go Deep, Stokers Unite, episode 5. And
how do I join your men's group?
Men's group, we're working on the new program, fitandfreelegacy.com. And so once that's launched, then I'm going to start having live events and more retreats out in nature. Our last one was in Taos, New Mexico. So Man Clan, stay tuned for Man Clan. And we'll be doing that soon. We're getting this fitandfreelegacy.com off the ground right now. And so I haven't coached people online like many ever. We did my breathwork course, and thousands of people joined that, but that was just an online course with just my teachings, right? And they got it all on video and PDFs. And so this one, I'll be online every week coaching and working with the groups, kind of like what Andrew Tate's doing, membership site, stuff like that. But taking people that are sick of being soft, they don't like what's happening, they don't like cancel culture, they want to be around some other homies, iron sharpens iron. We'll have the Savage and Saint on there, we'll have Paul Chek on there.
That's how I feel. I feel lonely, I feel like a lot of men you need other men.
Yep.
Because I can only be so strong with my family and my wife, and I get pulled in this situation like you, where I have to protect my wife at all costs and my family and my kids, and I'm so busy, I don't get to spend so much time with men.
Yep.
That's why I kind of started this podcast, so I can surround myself and I can get to meet you under these circumstances, so I can connect with you and I can sharpen my steel.
So let's talk about that. All we need is a date and a venue. I've probably done 50 or 60 retreats already with men. So all we need is a date and a venue. And I just met up with a guy in Peoria, in the Phoenix area. And he has a retreat center, I think, with 18 beds. I'm supposed to meet with him when I get back, but there's also land. And we can go deep into nature. We can do off-grid type of stuff and then bring in outfitting tents and stuff like that, get my military buddies. So let's do that. Let's talk about that. And let's put together something big and bring motherfuckers out there and go out into the wild and do it.
So when you watch my TikTok, you didn't think like, how did you like get it right away? Like, or even this setup?
Well, what got me was definitely the colors were interesting. And, you know, I was in the fashion industry and I like bling and I like fast cars. So you had that. And you also had success online. I don't know where you got all those dollar bills, but you had a lot of them. and you know, diamonds. And, you know, I like all that type of stuff. You know, I don't base my life on it, but I thought, hey, that's attractive. He's got people's attention and you were funny and you're fit. And your wife is beautiful, and she's funny. She looks like she's 12, but you guys are all in on the joke, right? And you're good, and I can see you know what you're doing. You're not just fucking around. Like you're making really good content, and the colors were popping, and so I was very entertained. And the way you kept telling the story, that was very interesting because you can make stories on your Instagram and most of mine are informational, and I'm not really doing like this. You remember the movie Memento when they filmed it backwards?
Of
like
course.
it reminded me a little bit like what's going to happen next, right? And so there was a lot of anticipation, and there was just so much color.
We would film them like 30 minutes or an hour in one.
Right.
And I would just be at home and like Memento, I can puzzle piece it in 10-second clips how I want on different accounts and different perspectives, different stories. Nothing fits together, but it all fits together.
Yes.
There's all these mistakes, but it all comes down to one. It was like the most incredible thing because we would stay in character 30 minutes straight. She is a like phenomenal actress, and it would be just so fun because I always thought the internet is so stupid. Like authenticity, it's so different than meeting you than talking to you online. So I might as well just troll everybody and pursue, show myself like into this craziness with all the fake money and the fake cars and everything.
Yeah.
So I just love doing that, and then puzzle pieced it like how you saw, like, and then you're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I thought it was genius, right? And I could see and feel the genius in it, and then I don't know, it must have been right before lockdown, and then I don't know, things changed, and I outsourced a lot of my social media too, so I wasn't consuming as much, and I got off Twitter, I got off TikTok. I mean, and it was just fantastical. Like, you know, I have a very spiritual understanding of the way of the world, and I work methodically moving forward, but I understand that entertainment and business currently is the way to move things forward. So anything that's like a good idea and entertaining, you got people's attention, I just think like, wow. And most people are just putting out dead content. Like all these marketers acting as coaches or fitness people, they're not really fitness people. They're good marketers, or they took a course on marketing. And so, and it's a lot of rehashed, boring stuff. And it's just so tiresome. And to see something that's a breath of fresh air, it makes it so amazing because there's so much drone stuff. And remember, it's the Kardashian playbook. It's the Gucci Mane playbook. Like that stuff sells records, right? The Kardashians, tits and ass. People just consume it. And so all I need to do is take a little bit of that and do what I'm doing. But a little bit of that, that's how you do media. And I've been in front of the camera for 33 years. And so for me to make media is pretty simple. And so, but I really like that creative artistry. That's why I love doing that Netflix show with Chad and JT, because they're just trying to make people laugh. And so, and I think laughter is the best medicine. And I think you can craft the message, and you can also get people's attention, and then have a completely different message or a business that's around, holism or what you believe in, because you have children now. So you can still get people's attention, and then you can have a really good business, or like we're talking about the men's groups. We do that because usually a great business is just solving a problem. And if you're lonely, there's other motherfuckers out there that are lonely and they want other men, and not bullshit. Like Andrew Tate's great, but I don't want to be around a bunch of alpha dudes that are just fucking talking shit and like smoking cigars and driving fast cars. There's anything wrong with all that stuff, but I don't want that to be the dominant element. Me, I want to get back into nature, because that's what really matters. That's what matters. That's what heals everybody. And people need healing right now. You have to understand that 70% of the American people are obese or overweight. 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically dysfunctional. Suicide rates amongst men, anxiety, depression, all this stuff is messed up. When I do my men's groups, and we had up to 60 guys in my friend's backyard in Venice Beach, and these guys would be working in tech and cubicles and stuff, and they'd be a little bit soft, but they would just love it, and they weren't exposed to it, and they couldn't talk to their workmates because they would get canceled for being not lefty and soft enough, right? You can't even say anything out in public anymore. You talk about feminism. I did a psychedelic conference recently. Aubrey Marcus was in Egypt and he couldn't do it, and I took his spot. And I talked about all this stuff. I red pilled the shit out of them. And there's a whole bunch of people in psychedelics that are just towing the line, and they're just like, there's the same confused people from the commercial populace. And so when you start talking about feminism and the masks were a lie and the vaccines were poison, people were cheering big time, and the whole place was like a dead scientific conference, right? When I got up there, people were cheering, and I know I rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
I think Andrew Tate, they use it like how you use your looks. They use what the youth wants. How I used it on TikTok. That's what I did. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give you a comedy, and I use the Lambos and the fake money and the bling to get your attention. But then I got you, and then I'll give you something where you're confused. You're like, this guy's dressed all fruity and gay and has a wife and a kid, and like, what's going on here? Like, I don't get it. This makes no sense. He's like an alpha, but he's all like rainbow. This is not how it's supposed to be. Like, yeah, it gets you, like, you don't understand it, and that's where I get you. But yeah, but I need the Lambos, and Andrew Tate needs the Bugatti, because otherwise nobody listens. Right. Until he said that, I haven't even heard of him, and he's done podcasts since a long time. Yep. I've never heard of him until he said, like, what color is your Bugatti?
Right.
Do you ever think about saying crazy shit to get more attention?
Well, I think a big part of my career has been that. But
even crazier shit.
The difference about my crazy stuff is I usually practice whatever I'm talking about. Yeah. So the urine therapy, and some news organization in the UK picked up on that I was a Versace model, and they used that as a headline, and that went viral. And if you Google me, that comes up. And then if people read into that or see the documentaries that have been made on me, then they're on my side, right? And I'm going to lose some people anyhow. But I rented a Rolls Royce for the launch of my book, and it's the Kardashian playbook. It works. I think it's great. And so, and I'm after a Rolls Royce for marketing purposes for that exact reason. And so, and my real Ferrari is my fucking body at 57 years old. My real Gucci is right here, baby.
That's right.
But if the bling gets a little attention, then my job is done. So I'm going to get attention no matter what anyways, because I know how to take care of myself, and I know how to make people laugh, and that's attractive. And so, and then you use that attractive, and then what do most people want? And I speak into that. They're sick of being soft, fat, sick, and nearly dead. And I've got the vitality and I've got the understanding and where you can access it all. Stop poisoning yourself and put high vibrational shit in there. Get some sunlight. Sun is the source of all life on planet Earth. And so you get my friend who's he's my colleague. He comes over to my house in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's triple digits for 3 months in a row. So he'll go out there at 110, 115 degrees. It'll burn, my pool yard will burn your feet. He goes out there and lays an hour on both sides naked. And he just more sun he can get into his mitochondria. That's all he cares about. He's the guy with the titanium cookware, and he goes to the farmer's market and he gets the goat heads and shit.
Man, I gotta have him on.
We eat the eyeballs and shit. Yeah, fucking Barbero's great, man. He's amazing. And he knows how to lift weights, and he's fucking strong, and he's a holistic dude. You know.
I like that. I like the combo what you said. Because like you always lose me when you're just a guru, and you're like not ripped. Or you also lose me when you're like Bill Gates. You're rich, but you're fat.
Yeah.
You know?
You got to have it all.
You got to have it all.
Yep.
I love that about you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming over, and I hope we'll have many talks more.
Yeah.
And let's do this men's group.
Yeah. Let's put that. I just got chills on that one. Yeah. Let's put that together. And yeah, I feel very grateful that you hollered at me. And so thank you so much. Yeah, brother. Yeah.